Good afternoon, everyone. How are you today? I'm Joey LaHatte, attorney at LaHatte Law Firm. I live in Driftwood, District 3. My house has about $60,000, $70,000 worth of damages. So I'm not just here today talking to you about how to handle your claims. I'm actually handling mine this time. I'm a hurricane lawyer here in town. I'm here today with myself and my firm, Galen Hare, with Insurance Claim Headquarters, Hare Chenard Trial Attorneys, who I work with, who's very knowledgeable in this field, and also Austin Tanner over there with ATA Claims. Austin is a public adjuster, multi-state, very good at what he does in terms of reviewing policies, reviewing your damages on your house, determining what you should get versus what your insurance company gives you. Galen's actually a very good friend of mine. We've worked with for 10 years now, litigating cases, primarily homeowners and commercial, residential, on bad faith claims, on fire losses, hurricanes, and everything else. So why am I here today? Well, when I evacuated the day after the storm hit, after Driftwood got completely strafed, my backyard exploded, 2 rooms of my house flooded. We went to the Caribbean Orange Beach. We got there, realized there was about 100 different Louisiana families there who figured out that I did storm claims for a living. They started talking to me every day. I realized the Carib had a small conference room. I said, why don't we just do a conference and just try to help everybody at the same time. Then got Galen and Austin on board, who I work with. They flew out there and met us. And we recorded that conference, which we're actually doing today again. I've been playing on Facebook to help people, and it's helped a lot of people. We're just here today to help people, and the city of Kenner heard I did this conference in Orange Beach. I was looking for a place in Kenner to hold this conference a couple of weeks ago. Couldn't find one. Everything is damaged. Chateau was a possibility. Ben found out I was looking for a place. Like, why don't you just come here to the council chambers and do it, so our constituents can just hear all your advice. And I said, that's great, no problem. And I'll feed everybody if that's okay. And Ben said no sweat at all. So I'm happy that he got me to come here today. We're here today to answer your questions. We're going to give you a presentation. I'm going to talk for about 12 minutes. You get sick of my voice, you can hear Galen for about 15, and then you can talk to Austin. And then we're going to literally, via Facebook Live, and here, of course, in person, answer questions you have on your respective claims. When I had the conference about a month ago, right after Ida hit, the first type of issues were, oh my God, what do I do? There's a contractor at my house I've never seen before. He's throwing a piece of paper in my face. Sign this piece of paper and I'll help you. That's one of the worst things you can do because you don't know this person, unless you know them, of course. If you know the person that's helping you, great. If they're local, awesome. But the worst thing you could possibly do is do business with someone you've never met, not from the state, not licensed in Louisiana, don't know if they're insured. And this document you sign with them says, I'm going to help you to my best efforts. I'm going to bill your insurance company, and by the way, they're going to pay me directly. So what happens with that? They might do a good job. You can't knock everyone. There are some good out-of-state people that I like to work with and I can recommend. But a lot of those companies are quote-unquote storm chasers. They'll come in and they'll do $10,000 worth of mitigation work on your house, send the bill to your insurance company for $40,000, get directly paid. They're gone. You're never going to see them again. Guess what happens after that? State Farm, Allstate, GeoVera, Lighthouse, Lloyd's, any of them are going to say, we paid this company $40,000 to fix your house. It should be put back together. It's not our problem. So you're in a pickle, and the insurance company says, we fixed your house, and this person who showed up at your house didn't do hardly anything, and your house is still not put back together. That was my first thing I was trying to get into people in my first conference and the Facebook Live session I did. And it still applies today. And if you can just leave here today, or people watching online, just the people you do business with to fix your homes, it's very important that you know who they are, or get referrals from other people who have had them before. Go with the local guys and girls, okay? Go with those companies. The Louisiana General Contractor Board has a website, and I think Kenner actually published this on their site. You can search their names, you can search their license number, you can search their entity, and they pop up if they're licensed. Boom. If they're there, it's a good sign. It means that they're licensed. It means they're either commercial or residential licensed. and they're insured. So that's a good first step. You don't want to just roll with someone you've never met. And I'm going to say that over and over again. And I've already have people who didn't hear my first, conference who have these issues, and I'm trying to help, and it makes it that much more difficult to do this. Main problem right now with people, we're post-Ida, we're over a month, we're 6 weeks from Ida. The next question, you're sitting here right now, is where is my adjuster? Some people still have not gotten their first adjuster to their homes. A friend of mine who lives in District 3 told me yesterday, my adjuster just came yesterday. Okay, that's actually a foul of Louisiana law because within 30 days they are supposed to respond and help you. They're supposed to inspect and pay you what you're owed on an undisputed basis on the statutes, okay? If they're coming out after 30 days, your claim is already going sideways, and it's not fun. If you had an adjuster come out originally and they maybe didn't go on the roof, maybe just a haphazard thing, how many people here have adjuster problems already? Raise your hand. Yeah, I figured that. Okay. So you might have had one that's come out already you don't trust, or let me give you the other the other side of the coin. Maybe the first adjuster came out says, Mr. and Mrs., you have a lot of damage. I'm going to write your whole roof. I'm going to give you all 3 of these rooms. I'll give you mold mitigation. I'm going to redo your fence. So you're warm and fuzzy. You go to bed that night. And, oh, my God, my first adjuster was awesome. I just feel so good right now. You don't hear anything for 4 weeks. Then you get this payment summary in the mail or something on email saying you're only getting, we're going to pay you $19,000, but we're going to depreciate that by a factor of 40%. Then we're going to apply your deductible, so you're only getting $3,500. After the first adjuster told you, I'm going to do almost your entire house. And let me tell you what happened with that. First adjusters, a lot of these adjusters are independent. They work for other companies. Some of them are good, some of them are not good. They do the initial adjustment. They send it in to the desk adjuster. There's 2 different adjusters on most of your claims. There's one that comes out to the field. There's one in-house, different state. Illinois, Florida, Oklahoma, you name it. They're all across the country. They get your estimate in. They go, oh, we're not paying for this. No, we're not going to cover this. Oh, this house has wind-blown rain. We're not going to cover that either. Anybody here heard that wind-blown rain phrase yet? Anybody here heard that? Okay. A lot of the carriers' policies have this exclusion called wind-blown rain exclusion, which means that if all your damage is from wind-blown rain, they don't want to pay for anything. The problem is you can't apply that if you didn't have water inside your house before. And I've actually litigated that, and I've gotten Louisiana citizens in bad faith several times after Hurricane Isaac when they tried to use that bogus exclusion. If your house is not leaking before Ida hit and you have water everywhere, they owe you money. They cannot use that wind-blown rain exclusion. And I know you're taking notes. I have a checklist I'm actually can give out later for people that need it, or I'll email it to people too. So, but feel free to take notes, but I'm giving you a lot of information, and I only have a couple of hours, and these 2 guys are experts at this too. So I do have a checklist I can give you guys to help. So let me go back to the adjuster process. This is for the carrier. So they send in your initial adjustment. Person, different state, looks at it. You're a number to them. It doesn't matter you've been a State Farm customer for 50 years or an Allstate customer for 40 years. I hear that all the time. It doesn't matter. I hate to tell you that. There is no loyalty in insurance company. Premium payments to people that are just numbers in a system on an underwriting basis. It's mean. It's corporate business. They're $10 billion companies. They don't care that you've been with them forever. So you need to take that notion out of your head as you deal with these people. It's a business. You have to stay on them. You have to fight for your stuff. You have to call them. Let's go to the calling element. Calling's okay, but it's much better to type. You know why? Because you create a record, a dossier in the claim system that you contacted them on this date, on this date, on this date. So down the road, when you try to settle this thing yourself or with someone helping you, look, I contacted you guys 35 times since my home got destroyed by Hurricane Ida. I live in Kenner. I can't stay in my house, or LaPlace, or all these areas around here. And you guys didn't send someone out until 30 days after. You paid me nothing. I got nothing on my ALE expenses. Who here has an ALE expense problem right now with your insurance carrier? They won't pay you a place to live, will they? State Farm is definitely not going to buy you a trailer to live in. I hate to tell you that, if that's your insurance company. Some carriers are actually doing that. State Farm is not. Some people are saying, well, I'm just going to buy a trailer and get my company to pay for the trailer so my family and my dog and my parents can live with us. If you have the money to buy the trailer, great. Something you can fight for later, but they are not going to turn around and pay for that trailer. Hate to tell you that. The Louisiana Department of Insurance Commissioner and his team are going to be here later this afternoon. And he actually, in fairness to Jim Donnellan, they issued that proclamation about a week and a half after Ida hit saying, the carriers, you need to pay for these additional living expenses for Louisiana people displaced by Ida, okay, regardless of this mandatory evacuation exclusion. He actually tried. The problem is they're not listening. State Farm said, okay, great, we're not doing it. These companies have so much power to attempt not to help you. I can tell you that a lot of these carriers are going to try to pull out of this state next year. They're going to raise your rates. They're going to try to get higher deductibles. This is probably the last time you can fairly really fight them to get paid to get your house done. And I'm not saying that to be morbid. It's going to be a lot harder going forward after this year. I've done this a while. I've filed hurricane suits forever. It's going to be much tougher 5 to 10 years from now to get these people to pay for hurricanes, unless there's some kind of federal or state-federal intervention on how these policies are written. Very unfair when people, their house is full of water mold and they tell them you have a $17,000 deductible. I mean, it's grossly unfair to me to even have that in how they can even underwrite a policy that unfairly. So you're going to see that going forward. Another issue that I've seen, we're in the 6-week mark. How many people have gotten like some check from their carrier, like some money, like a $7,000 check or something small you're obviously not happy with, okay? There's a misconception out there that if you get that small check and you're unhappy with it, you can't cash it, okay? Those checks, as long as your check doesn't say settlement, full and final release, that's what the insurance company believes is owed to you. That means that you can fairly negotiate it and use it if you want to right now. I have a lot of people come to my office with a $30,000 check, $40,000. This is awful. You need to get more money from me. I'm not cashing this. I'm like, go cash it. It's just going to go stale. It's actually what they think they owe you. Even though you don't dispute it, even though you dispute it, they're not disputing this amount. So if it doesn't say full and final release on the check, you can go put that in and actually start using that to your benefit for wherever you want. It's your insurance money, all right? And to hammer the point home again about who you sign with after storm events and catastrophes, insurance money is yours. It's not someone else's. It's not monopoly money. There's a lot of type of storm responder companies that will say, well, this is just insurance money. I'll deal with it. Don't worry, I'll fix your house. Okay, it is not monopoly money. It is real money that's in your wallet if they pay you. You pay a premium to these companies to get paid after these losses for your coverage A, for your contents claim, for additional living expense, and that is real dollar bills that they write checks for. So you need to protect the money at all costs. So if the carrier puts a bunch of different entities on a check, when they issue a payment, that's not correct. It's yours. The only payee that can go on your insurance check is your mortgage company, okay? That's also another problem with mortgage companies take forever to endorse it. But if you have a mortgage on your house, they have a right under your insurance policy to be what they call a loss payee. So they have a right to make sure you fix your house. So it's okay to endorse the check and send it to your mortgage company, whoever that is, Wells Fargo, Fannie Mae, whoever, to their loss draft departments. And then they take that and they can rightfully dole you out amounts to help you to get your house fixed. Sometimes they'll send most of it back to you. Sometimes they'll send 30% based on a contractor's estimate, but they do owe you some amount up front, okay? So those are the main points. We're 6 weeks since Ida. My checklist, I just threw a lot of different information at you, and I don't like to talk over 10 to 12 minutes because I want to make sure y'all can have attention to listen to these guys too. We're going to do a question and answer session after Galen and Austin talk. Okay, we'll do it online too. People watching on Facebook Live right now. We're happy to meet with you after if you brought your policies. I know the city of Kenner said to bring your policies today, especially for the Department of Insurance meeting this afternoon. But those are the kind of, definitely save your receipts. Everything you've done for your evacuation, you need to make sure you do that. If you're cataloging your losses right now, make sure you take tons of pictures of your contents. Okay? Everybody has a contents type coverage in your policy if it's a homeowner's policy. Contents means not just, a TV or your computer or your bed. It means everything inside your house. So that means pens, stationery, photographs, notepads, $2, $4, $6, 99 cents. It takes forever to draft a contents list that big, but guess what? All that adds up if it's wet. If it was exposed to mold, in my opinion, it needs to be replaced. Okay? Mold's dangerous. It's a mycotoxin. Some of it is really bad, like Stachybotrys. You don't want it in your house. So the carriers would tell you after a loss and going into the contents part of the seminar, we'll pay for your couch, we'll pay for, some clothes. Everything in that room, if it was wet, like I'm doing that right now in my house. Everything in my den, I got water that poured in through my side door with the 140-mile-an-hour winds. I put it on my contents list because it was hit by the water. It sat in my house for 2 weeks without power, and it started growing mold, and it smells. You're not going to get that smell out of your clothes. You can dry clean it 100 times. It's still going to be not the same, especially after fire claims I handle. So make sure your contents list is very complete for anything in your house that got hit. You want to send that into the carrier to make sure it's full. And I'm going to give it off to Galen in a second to give him some time to talk. But, this Ida, I was talking to Ben about this the other day. Ida is, in terms of wind damages and how long it stayed over an area, is worse than Hurricane Katrina. Never before has an area been exposed to continuous 140-mile-an-hour winds over and over and over again for that period of time. Katrina came in pretty quick. Zeta was like a missile last year. Whoosh, came in quick and left. Ida, it just, building standards and the existing codes are not rated to withstand winds of sustained nature of that long. Some of them can sustain, you've heard of wind gusts up to 140 mile an hour, on this roof, or 150. There's nothing that's ever been really tested on how Ida and the winds happen. And the more engineers and experts I talk to, this is really a first-time occurrence. So the eye wall, Kenner had that right part of that eye wall on the east. And if you notice, the further down Clearview and Causeway you go to Orleans, there's a lot less catastrophic wind damage. Kenner got blasted. I was here in my house. We were scared to death. I'm never staying again. It was awful. The water cut off 2 hours into it. The city's doing the best job they can right now. LaPlace got completely bombed. It's horrible out there, and definitely south, Lafourche, Terrebonne, Grand Isle, those areas. So, a lot of the officials around here are dealing with this terrible garbage problem that has never been really seen before in the United States. We've never had a storm like this that just sat and just kind of just swirled everything. So just know that dealing with Ida, you check your houses, get someone to look at your houses on a neutral basis, someone else besides the State Farm responder or Allstate, to make sure that they can do a second opinion, just because you'd be surprised. Even if you don't think you have roof damages, your shingles might be uplifted, they may be creased, you might not even know that even exist until the next storm and everything flies off, and you should have got it done now. Okay, so I'm going to introduce Galen with Harris Schneider, let him do his thing. He's got a little slideshow he's going to show you, and then happy to answer your questions at the end.
Hey guys, so I guess they're recording some of this, so first let me give you my standard disclaimer, because every once in a while I go talk and someone does video it or record it, and then a carrier uses it against me at a mediation or a trial or a hearing or something. So I don't think insurance carriers are bad people at all. I truly don't. I don't think there's executives sitting in a boardroom trying to figure out how not to fairly pay your claim. That's not the case. What I'm going to talk about today is kind of how the system is set up. Some of this is going to be really basic info to you guys, and some of it is going to be, they're going to be things you don't know and you didn't realize. And what it is that system is set up in a way. You have your insurance policy, you all know that, but what you may know or may kind of perceive but not have really been given directly is there's all these internal policies and all these internal guidelines that you never agreed to, you didn't buy, and you weren't provided copies of. And those things are steering your claim in a way that sometimes is not fair to you. Because your goal is to get rebuilt after the storm, get your contents back, and not be out of pocket other than your deductible. That's your goal. And that's what you should be entitled to when insurance works. But all these things you're not being told about and you're not being given are sometimes working against you. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to focus on, Joey just gave you a lot of great information. I'm going to kind of lay out how this process is really designed and what it means to you so you know who some of these people are when you interact with them and you know what issues you need to deal with. Real quick, before we jump into it, after Hurricane Laura, I was like sitting in a parking lot and I was invited to, some law firm was going to do a, and I won't mention them, but they were going to do an insurance seminar. So I'm there, I'm in my jeans and a polo because I did not want to look like a lawyer. And I'm sitting at the back of the room and there's like an open bar under a tent. And there's like caterers. I look around and everyone's like an out-of-state contractor. There's no people there. And I realized like the seminar was about, oh, look at me, I'm great, send me your work, I want your money, right? And I'm sitting at the back, kind of annoyed. And this lady taps me on the shoulder and I turn around. And she goes, excuse me, and she has paperwork in her hand. And she's like, can you help me understand what this means? And she's got her first insurance estimate. And I think, well, this is great. I've got a room of 50 contractors and a law firm, and they're all here. So someone's going to help this lady. So I go to one of the people that works for the law firm and say, hey, there's a lady back there. And I listen. They look at the estimate. They flip to the back page. They see the amount. They flip to the front page, and they see the coverage. And they say, well, unfortunately, your claim's not big enough for us to talk to you. We suggest you call the Bar Association, and they'll refer you to a lawyer. And I was like, man, there's such a better way of doing this, right? So that's kind of, I like vented to Joey last year. And Joey was like, we should do better about letting people know. So I just wanted you to kind of hear the background as to why we're doing this in the first place. It's because we do think that there's only a handful of lawyers and adjusters that were doing this work before big storms, and we think we're kind of failing you guys by not giving you this info. So I wanted to make sure that we kind of do that. So with that said, I won't belabor like a 50 PowerPoint slide, but I'm just going to give you some high-level information. I've got a new slide clicker over here. I think you just click. I haven't done it ever. There you go. All right, so these are just some initial points, and we can probably go ahead and go to the next slide, but I want you to understand that this process is going to feel emotional for you, and that's normal because it's your house. It's everything you spent your life working for, and it should feel emotional, but to them it's really not. And I want you to know that because sometimes that's where the biggest disconnect is. I get people in my office all the time, and Joey does too, I'm sure, that are like, I've been a customer of this insurance company for 30 years. How could they do that to me? They don't care. Joey said earlier, you're a number. You're not even a dollar figure. You're a claim number. They don't even know what that's attached to. But it's a business, right? Like State Farm made profits. I don't even know how big that number is because I think I can't count that high. I think it's $5 billion, $5.5 billion, right? So you're dealing with boards of directors, you're dealing with shareholders, you're dealing with corporations, and they don't answer to you. You're their policyholder. They have a legal relationship with you, but you're not their owner. Even on these mutual exchange insurance companies, they still don't really treat you like an owner because the mutual exchange just means you own like one insurance policy in the world of policies. So like, I guess the way you think about it, I love that ringtone, by the way. So I guess if you think about it, like, you know, I like ducks. So let's go to the next one. But if you think about it, even on these exchanges, let's say they write like 500,000 policies, that means you only are one of 500,000 owners. So they got a lot of other people to answer to. And by the way, on the mutual exchanges, what makes that crazy is when you think about it, if they write more than just where this storm hit all over the country, that means Louisiana only counts for a tiny percentage of their owners, even on the mutual exchanges. So they've got all these other owners they have to answer to that didn't get affected by the hurricane. So again, they just don't have that incentive to take care of you. Where are we? Let's just go backwards. Okay, well, we're gonna make this up. So let's talk about preferred vendors while she tries to see if she can get back to the beginning. All right, so preferred vendors, you kind of heard Joey indicate this. Preferred vendors are people that have a relationship with the insurance company, some kind of special relationship, but they don't work for them, okay? They're someone that does mitigation. They're someone that may do tarping. They may value your contents. They may come pack your stuff and take it out. Mitigation is the most common one. Have any of you, not just Hurricane Ida, but ever, had a claim where your insurance company says, we're gonna send someone out to kind of rip out your wet drywall, dry things up? Yeah, when they say we're gonna send someone out, they are definitely talking about a preferred vendor. When they say here's a list of people, they're talking about a preferred vendor. When they don't give you any information and say you should hire someone to go get them, then that person's probably not a preferred vendor, right? But anytime they indicate that they want you to use that person or that person is approved in some kind of way, and I think I know what you're about to ask, but go ahead.
Well, the person they sent to do the talk, which needed to be done 3 times, I looked them up. Apparently they didn't. They had an F rating.
Yeah, so that's what I was about to get to, actually. So these
And it was funny because that's when they started rating.
No, and it's not funny. It's annoying. It's annoying because they don't vet these people for the quality of work they do, okay? They typically don't. And in fact, did we get to preferred vendors? Oh, go to preferred vendors. We're good there. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, no, stay there. I like that one. I like that one. Go to the big list. There you go. You got it. So let me finish with preferred vendors. So preferred vendors have some relationship, and I'll tell you, like in this field that Joey and I are in, sometimes we go to the insurance company and say we want to depose you on the process for becoming a preferred vendor. That is always the biggest fight. The insurance company will go to court to avoid telling us how these people get on this list, which indicates to me they did not go through rigorous testing to make sure they're doing a great job. So at a minimum, but here's the problem, it's not even that. At a minimum, these preferred vendors get a lot of work from these carriers. So they need these carriers to like them. So there's a lot more discussion and negotiation than I would want for your claim. If you're gonna hire someone to mitigate your home, I would want for your well-being, for someone to come in and say, Mrs. So-and-so, I've looked at your house, here are the areas that are wet and damaged, here's what I would like to do. If with your authorization, I'll go forward and I'll try to bill your insurance company first. That's what I would like to hear. But that's not what happens with preferred vendors. They go and they call the adjuster and say, here's what I found. And the adjuster says, okay, well, I'll pay to take out like a little bit of the living room and maybe all of the bathroom, but none of the kitchen. And then the mitigation contractor marches right back in and goes, Miss So-and-so, good news. I've got authority to take out this much of your living room, all of your bathroom, but none of your kitchen. And then sometimes they take it a step further and go, but I'm not worried because I don't think those areas are damaged, whether they mean that or not. I've actually had to sue preferred vendors for lying to homeowners and saying something was safe when it wasn't, which is a terrible situation. So my point is, I'm not saying don't use a preferred vendor. There are some out there that are probably perfectly fine. But make sure that you understand that there's a special relationship there that will never be less special, that your relationship with them will never be more special than that relationship. Because that relationship is gonna keep that business in business for years and years and years. Your relationship is gonna get that business a little bit of money today, right? Okay, so we're gonna kind of run down these. You know a lot of these names, a lot of these people already. I just kind of want to make sure we understand the differences. A desk adjuster. A desk adjuster is someone that works for your insurance company, usually in-house. But some of you have like Lloyd's and kind of carriers like that hire other companies called like Sedgwick and people like that. But a desk adjuster literally is someone that sits behind a desk and they make decisions. They make decisions about how much you're going to get paid. They make decisions about what's going to be covered and what's not going to be covered. They're actually the people that are applying all those internal guidelines and things I was talking about. They're the ones that have to follow them, okay? The desk adjuster is that person you've been trying to call probably nonstop since the storm, and you're really frustrated and won't answer the phone. That's your desk adjuster, okay? Some carriers, very few, have like the same desk adjuster and field adjuster, but for most carriers, there is a difference. And I want you to understand that because of that experience some of you have had where your field adjuster has been great and told you they're going to do all these things. Well, the desk adjuster is making the decision. That person that was standing in your house telling you how great they're going to treat you doesn't necessarily have any authority. That desk adjuster does a few things. They set the reserves. They literally set the cap on what the insurance company is going to pay for your claim. They're not going to pay that right away. They're just setting a ceiling for you. They are dealing with whether they're going to hire engineers or other experts to come out and look at your property. I shouldn't call them experts, but other people. They're deciding whether they're going to approve paying certain bills you have and things like that. For your purposes, for your claim, that is the person with the keys to the kingdom. And unfortunately, they're not there, so you can't meet them in person. You're not going to develop an emotional bond or a good relationship, even if they're nice people. It's also good that they're not there because some of you are going to want to wring their necks by the time this is over. But at the end of the day, that's the person that you're really dealing with. And I want you to understand that because you heard that story earlier, but it's true. I get this all the time. Oh, the person that came out was amazing, so I'm not going to need any help. And then they're like heartbroken 2 months later. The desk adjuster's the problem. All right, the field adjuster. For most carriers, that is someone that does not work directly for the carrier. They're not employed directly by the carrier. But field adjusters typically only work for insurance companies through like a third party, okay? I could list a billion of them, but you've seen them come out. They say they're with one carrier, but you know, if you get a business card from them, they're from some other company and the carrier's just hired them to come out. Their job is super straightforward, but it's not easy. And unfortunately, they're not usually trained. We'll get to that in a minute. A field adjuster should come out, measure your whole property, take a very careful, thorough look at your property. Thorough, okay? Look through every nook and cranny in an ideal world. Find all of the damage to your home. If there's something they don't know, they should make a recommendation to get someone special, like a window. Maybe they can't tell if that window's damaged, but they think it might be. Get a fenestration expert out there, right? But they should, if they're doing a good job, they will go through every nook and cranny of that home, and then they will go back to their home or office or whatever. A lot of them are working out of campers right now, and write an estimate to cover all of the damage they saw. And they should thoroughly document it, and they should take great pictures. That's the perfect world. That's not what happens, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And look, if any of you had your field adjuster come out and they left in less than half a day, you should be a little concerned, right? Because how long did it take you? Like, I mean, we don't adjust a claim by going like this. That's not how a claim is adjusted, right? Like walking around, craning your neck up and down through a house and going, is not really a good way to adjust a claim. So what you need to do is really go through that. The next category is independent adjusters. These can be desk adjusters or field adjusters, but I want to cover this. A lot of people will call you or talk to you during your claim, and they'll say, I'm an independent adjuster. That is a fake term, okay? It used to be a real term, but it's actually fake. There are no independent adjusters in the state of Louisiana. There are two types of licensed adjusters: claim adjusters, who only work for the insurance companies, and public adjusters who only work for the policyholder. Independent adjuster is really a claim adjuster that only works for the insurance company. If they tell you they're an independent adjuster, they are either saying they're independent because it sounds nicer, but they really work for the carrier, or you'll even run into some independent adjusters that say they want you to hire them. They probably aren't even licensed in the state of Louisiana to do anything if that's the case, right? Independent is a fake word in adjusting. It should be a real word. There should be real independent adjusters that come out and fairly value everything, but there's only one kind of adjuster that a carrier will use, and that's a claim adjuster, and they are licensed to work for the carrier. So when you hear independent adjuster, just delete that word in your mind and do not give that weight because it matters to us. We hear independent. Oh, man, my insurance company sent out an independent adjuster. So they're going to be objective and fair. They're not going to think about them. They're not going to think about me. That is a load of bull because that independent adjuster only gets paid by the carriers. They're not independent. Public adjusters, I just kind of hit on this. Public adjusters are licensed in the state of Louisiana to assist a policyholder, that's one of you, with a claim. Some of you may have gotten knocked on the door by a public adjuster. Some have, some have not. They came in. There really were not many public adjusters in the state of Louisiana like 2 years ago. There were a few after Katrina, then they all kind of disappeared because there weren't a ton of claims. And then after Hurricane Laura, huge balloon of public adjusters, right? So they all hit the ground with a fury. Even a lot of out-of-state public adjusters had gotten their licenses a year ago in Louisiana for Hurricane Laura, but they kind of missed the window because it took so long to get their licenses. So now they've got this new shiny license, they're ready to go, and they're showing up knocking on doors. So you may have run into them, but they're not lying to you. They are licensed, if they're a public adjuster, to assist you with your claim. They're limited in what they can do. Their job is mainly to write an estimate the right way, value your loss fairly, and ultimately, in a perfect world, get you paid. But they're kind of limited in the negotiations they can engage in and the things they can do, and obviously they can't file suit or anything like that, right? In Louisiana, public adjusters are required to charge hourly. This is super uncomfortable. If a public adjuster approaches you and says they're charging 10% of the claim, just so you know that's true in almost every other state in the union, but it's not okay in Louisiana, so they're doing something they shouldn't be doing. However, they're in between a rock and a hard place because in Louisiana they have to charge you hourly, but they're having trouble convincing you to pay them hourly because you don't want to pay them if they don't get you money. So then a lot of them do this, hey, sign this hourly, wink, wink. I promise you my hours won't be more than 10%, right? So you got to be careful. I just want you to be aware of that issue. Honestly, there's not a good solution. That's something the legislature needs to fix. Building consultants, that's another fake term. And what I mean by that is insurance, and I talk about when insurance companies, like Austin's going to get up and he's going to say he's a loss consulting company, and he is because he consults on losses for lawyers, which is really where that comes from. He's also a public adjuster, all right? So I'm not bad-mouthing him, but insurance companies all the time bring building consultants with them. And when I first got into this industry like 7 years ago, I was like I was really excited because it's a loss consultant, a building consultant. That sounded really cool. I was like, oh, are you a licensed contractor? Nope. Are you an adjuster? Nope. Are you an engineer? No. Do you have any license in the state of Louisiana? I'm not required to, sir. I'm a building consultant. And then the building consultant writes this like low estimate for like $10,000 for your house when it's like a $100,000 loss. And I'm like, who the heck are you? You have no licenses to operate here. So I'm not a big building consultant fan, admittedly. Engineers, again, like engineers are awesome, right? Because engineers build bridges. They fix our cities. They make things work. They find efficiency in things where they don't exist. Being an engineer is one of the coolest, highest civic callings I think anyone can have. I see some heads shaking. The engineers and insurance claims are not those people, okay? They're not. What happened is years ago, roofers from out of state, not out of state everywhere, not just out of state Louisiana, they started what we call storm chasing, right? And this made sense because more roofs were damaged in a neighborhood than even the local roofing companies could handle after a big hailstorm or a big hurricane. And the carriers had to find a way to not pay for these roofs because it was economically dangerous to them. And at some point, some ingeniously evil engineer figured out, well, I'm an engineer, so I can write a report saying that the hail or wind shouldn't have damaged that roof if it had been installed properly. And I can save the insurance companies millions, and I can probably make a few million. So carriers started more and more hiring these engineering firms, and all these engineering firms popped up that all they do is forensic engineering for insurance losses. And what they do is go out, and they look at your roof, and they say, oh, it's too old, or oh, it's installed improperly. Or, that roof is messed up. But you know what? it must be something else because I'm telling you the wind wasn't high enough to do that. Sometimes they make up things. Right after a big hurricane, they say, oh, the wind in this neighborhood wasn't that high. Excuse me, sir, were you standing outside during the hurricane? Because I think everyone evacuated. But it's weird that you seem to know how high the wind was right here. So I'm not anti-engineer. I'm just anti-engineer in insurance claims. I think engineers are awesome. But unfortunately, they produce a lot of bad reports. If you Google engineer fraud, Hurricane Sandy, and I think Austin was like involved in this, on the good side, not the bad side. I think you were one of the people that Congress appointed or on the congressional committee to like, so after Hurricane Sandy, all of these claims were getting denied by engineers. And the denial reports were looking really, really similar and eerie. And a bunch of people, not just lawyers, not just public adjusters, a bunch of people started to compare these hundreds and thousands of reports and found some typos. And then they realized they were the same typos in every single report. And then they realized they'd been copied and pasted into every single report. And then found out that some of these engineers had never gone to these properties. So it was bad. It wasn't bad enough. Like, it was already bad enough if they were just going, not really paying attention and copying and pasting. They weren't even going. But they were stamping it with their seal, saying they'd gone. So this ended up being a massive deal, and all these closed and denied claims had to get reopened. Those engineers, and I hate to say this, especially on recording, those engineers are here in the greater New Orleans area working Hurricane Ida for the carriers. Same companies. Some of them are new companies that are founded by the same people. They change companies every few years. And I really hate to say this because I live in New Orleans. My office is in Metairie. I love where I'm from, okay? But most of those engineers that were causing problems up there were based in Louisiana. That's where they were from. They figured out how to do this during Katrina. So it was a natural money-making opportunity in Sandy, okay? So when an engineer comes out to your house, be very careful. Do not be super excited that this is an engineer that builds bridges and makes communities better and is gonna get your house fixed. Joey, how many claims have you had where an engineer wrote a report recommending that everything be replaced and fixed? 0. I'm batting 1. Okay, I've had it happen one time, and they fired that engineer and hired another engineer to write a different report. And then later told me that first engineer didn't know what he was doing. Policyholder attorneys, that's Joey and I. We're the people that get up and talk every once in a while, but we're people that you can retain if you have problems with your claim. You're going to hit a point at some point where you either don't need help or you do. And that's one of the people you need to consider. I'll just make this comment. If you hire a policyholder attorney, I don't care who it is. I just want to make sure you get someone that has done this work before a hurricane happens, because I'll make this comment, every divorce attorney, every PI attorney, every traffic ticket attorney, and I know this because they're calling me and they're asking for advice. And they're saying, hey, I got a call today from an attorney. Could you send me all of your forms and the list of everyone you hire for hurricane claims? And I was like, yeah, I don't care. Yeah, why not? I was like, yeah, why? Oh, yeah, we've signed 100 claims, but we have no idea what we're doing. They're just as bad as the carriers, right? Like, if you're trying to help someone but you don't know how to help, you're not helping, you're hurting. That's my general rule in life. Insurance defense attorneys. Man, most of y'all live in Kenner, so like you live with these people. They're in your neighborhood. So do not lynch them when they start representing like Liberty Mutual, State Farm, Allstate. Okay, they're doing their jobs. Again, insurance defense attorneys aren't inherently bad people. I think they've like got a really twisted view in life because as attorneys, we kind of see things through the lens of what we do. So I think like every policyholder is super honest and has been taken advantage of. And they think every policyholder commits fraud in some kind of way and it's my job to protect corporate America. So these are people, they're good folks, but they're doing their jobs. And then mitigation companies, we talked about that. Contractors, these are general contractors. I know y'all had at least one roofer or contractor knock on most of your doors by now, okay? You're starting to see yard signs. They're all over the Facebook groups. I'm in the Kenner Happenings group. Like, they're posting all the time. The only thing I want to caution you with on that is this. Like, Joey already talked about the out-of-state stuff. Just be aware that a lot of them will say, we will work your insurance claim for you. Find out how they're doing that. And if they're not getting a licensed public adjuster or a policyholder attorney to do that, they could be committing a felony. And the carriers know this. So the carriers sometimes will work with a contractor just to get a claim shut down, but other times they'll kind of just let them hang themselves, and it drags on the claim for a lot longer than it should be. But some contractors, when they say they're going to work the claim, are being very honest because they've gone and hired a public adjuster, and they're paying them out of their own pocket to kind of work on the claim, or they've got their own policyholder attorney that's actually working in the background for you, just not charging you, if that makes sense. Preferred vendors, talked about that. Appraisers, you guys are still a little too early for that, but I'll tell you this, there is a different type of appraisal. You all know real estate appraisal. You bought a house, it had to get appraised if you were getting a loan, right? There is something called insurance appraisal. I think you're gonna start seeing that in about 30, 60 days. I intentionally monitor all of these silly Facebook groups because I wanna know when the appraisers come out. I strongly caution you, you're gonna start seeing there's a better way. Are you frustrated with your claim? Hire an appraiser now. That's a real thing. There's an insurance appraisal license in the state of Louisiana that has no qualifications. I am a licensed insurance appraiser. I was curious if I could become one. It took me $25. You would not want me as your insurance appraiser, okay? I'd fight for you, but I'd do a pretty bad job, all right? There are people that do really good jobs at this stuff. Be very careful, because the people that are jumping into this and are gonna start advertising are not the people that do good jobs. You know why? Because the people that do really good jobs for you in this stuff are so busy because of Hurricane Laura. They're so busy. So be very careful. If you have to hire an appraiser, like, call me or Joey all day, free advice. Like, I'll find you a good appraiser that's available and give you their phone number, okay? But do not hire the rando person on Facebook that has no idea. Like, interview them. Make sure, how many appraisers have you done? Were you on the policyholder side or were you on the carrier side? What's your experience? Like, I want to see awards that you wrote. Like, hold their feet to the fire and then go on the Louisiana Department of Insurance and find out when they became an appraiser. If it was last month, I would question whether they've done 500 appraisals, okay? You can blow through most of those, yeah. I want to get to the quote. Keep going. So, yeah, there you go. So I want to just address this, and then I think I'm done, and we'll give it to Austin. This is a real example. I'm going to read it because it's too small. But I did say that I'd touch on training later. These adjusters do not typically get trained. I find that there's like 4 types of adjusters. Really honest adjusters. I call them unicorns. And then adjusters that lie a little bit, adjusters that lie normal, and adjusters that lie a lot. All right? And what I mean by that is some of you have had adjusters come out already. Oh, I was a roofer for 25 years, and now I'm here doing this. Okay, first of all, roofing is an incredibly lucrative industry. If they owned a roofing company and now they're adjusting your claim, they went wrong somewhere. All right? So they're not that, but they say these things, and I don't know why they say these things. They want you to believe that they know what they're doing, even though they don't. It's like, it's the strangest thing. Like, they need to feel like they connected with you on a personal level, and you feel safe and comfortable. And like, as a result, I think a lot of them just lie about their experience and their background. The training process for most adjusters consists of 3 days of classroom training where you learn how to use their technology, and then you go run 2 or 3 claims with a supervisor who may have been a supervisor for a week, okay, where they show you what they would do. And then for really big disasters, there's a tent set up somewhere where once you're done with your claims for the day, you can go to the tent and get help from someone. A lot of these folks, they have not been running claims for very long, okay? This is a real Facebook post right after Hurricane Laura. I got kicked out of this group shortly after I started doing these presentations, all right? I blocked out her name because she was very nice. I got deployed. Louisiana, here I come with no experience but a big personality. I'm excited but a little scared. That lady probably adjusted 300 to 400 people's homes in Lake Charles. And they wonder why that place is so messed up. Because there were hundreds of her. And here there are hundreds of her. And she probably is a really sweet lady. It was unfair to her. It was fundamentally unfair to her, and it's unfair to you that she was responsible for whether you get to move back into your house or not in a timely manner, that she was responsible for whether you can afford a contractor, that she was responsible for whether your contents get paid or whether you have a place to live. It's unfair to you for sure, but it's even unfair to her. She wasn't ready for that job. That's ridiculous. And I said, so, I was like, there's 99 comments there. It got higher before I got kicked out of the group. But a lot of people were just like, you'll be great. Don't worry. Just plug away. You'll be bad for the first couple of 100 claims, but you'll be great by the time it's over. And then someone was like, I'm looking at some of the people on this list of followers, and I think there's some attorneys that represent policyholders on here. We should kick them out. Or we should at least delete this post. And then I got kicked out. Very common. Like, okay, so this is like an example because it's easy. But I think, like Austin, you're still in these groups. I'm sure these posts are still coming up. I just get kicked out every time I join. But this is going on right now. I mean, I literally saw a post the other day that's like, hey, great job opportunity available. Must have a high school diploma and a driver's license. And I couldn't resist. So I had my little brother contact him. Little brother contacts him. Guess what job it is? Claims adjusting. Had him ask how long the training was. No training will get you started on day one. That's insane. So look, with that said, I'm not going to talk. I feel like I've already talked your ear off, so I appreciate your time. I'm going to get Austin to come talk to you because he kind of has a different perspective. He was on, and the reason we brought Austin is really simple. Austin represented carriers for a long time. He ran owned a very, very large company that helped carriers make these estimates. And he had to follow these guidelines and do these things. Since then, I think I know Austin has switched and has started helping people that are kind of in your position and have a claim and are dealing with the insurance company. But I can't think of anything more invaluable than kind of getting to talk to someone that did both sides. Like, I get up here and I sound like I hate insurance companies. I worked for insurance companies. I defended Lloyd's of London, when I first started my career. I get it. And that's why I think they're not all bad. But Austin has such a different view because while Joey and I can tell you how these things play out in court, what the law is, what's a proof of loss, all those things, Austin can talk to you about the actual process that you're going through in terms of getting your claim adjusted. And then after Austin's done, Joey, Austin, and I will be available for all your questions. So just anything, and look, there's no silly questions. We'll talk to you privately afterwards as well if you're worried about it. But we'll lay it all out there for you, and we'll give you the best advice we can. So with that said, let's get Austin to come up.
Hey guys, I'm Austin Tanner with ATA Loss Consulting. We're a national loss consulting firm, public adjusting firm. We work on behalf of the policyholder. Just to give you a little background on myself, I did start with a major carrier when Katrina hit. So I just had my 16-year anniversary in the business. But I started when Katrina hit for a large carrier that you all know. I was 19 years old. This kind of goes to talks about they'll hire anyone, right? I was 19, so I started in that same boat as this lady probably heading out, right? And within 2 weeks, I was managing 300 adjusters, had, about 15 managers that answered to me. And the main reason I was given that opportunity was because I was really tech savvy, so I knew how to use. I picked up the software really quick, but that tells you, they literally will hire almost anyone. But I worked for that company for 5 years. In 2010, I started my own independent adjusting firm, and we had contracts with major carriers across the country. So those adjusters were then working for our company for the insurance carrier. And in 2015, I was reached out to and asked by Congress if I could come to D.C. to help with the audit for the Congressional Task Force. They set up a Congressional Task Force to audit Hurricane Sandy. And the main reason this task force was set up was because of engineers that had falsified reports. So they had written one report, sent it into the carrier. The carrier said, hey, I don't like that. Can you change it? They said, yes. So they changed the report, sent it in. We had both reports, right? So anyway, it was a big deal. The largest WIO, or Write Your Own Flood Company, which is I was working a lot in the flood industry at the time. I'm certified in federal court as an NFIP testifying expert for the flood program, and this was all flood related, right? These engineers were writing these reports, boiler plating these reports. It was a mess. So they set up this task force to audit. Anyone who wanted to have their claim audited could enter the audit, and it was about a little less than 20,000 claims that we audited. And through that process, I think I was sort of jaded before I got there. I thought we really were the good guys on the carrier side. And for me personally, I always fought for my insureds and wanted to do the right thing for them. But through that process, I realized that I was on the wrong side of things. And so when I left D.C. and came back to Alabama, I live in Orange Beach. When I came back home, I started getting calls from plaintiff attorneys that we had worked with through the audit process to help settle their clients' losses. And they're like, hey, would you ever consider doing expert work on behalf of plaintiffs? And I said no many times because I was like, if I do this, I can't ever go back, right? So it was a scared thing for me at the time. And they kept calling, and I said, okay, let's do it. And so we formed ATA and started doing expert work on behalf of policyholders. And since that time, we've helped thousands of policyholders recover, millions and millions of dollars that they were rightfully owed. So that's a little bit about my background. So that's what we're doing here in Louisiana. We're already handling, several hundred losses for different law firms and policyholders. One thing I always start with, I want to tell everyone, if you haven't already done this, please go and file a FEMA claim. So go to disasterassistance.gov. Even if you have insurance, there's going to be programs that are going to continue to come out that will help you or potentially help you that you may qualify for. It doesn't hurt to file this claim with FEMA. You can also reach them at their 800 number, which is 800-621-3362. File this claim. There may be things that are available to you. I know we went through Hurricane Sally last year. I filed the claim. I don't even know what it was for, but they gave us a few $1,000. Don't know what it was for. They deposited it in our checking account, whatever. So take it, right? It can help with your deductible, whatever you want to use it for. Mortgage companies, I know they touched on this, and I want to try to provide value. I don't want to just reiterate everything they said, but with the mortgage companies, if you have a mortgage and you've got checks coming, go ahead and reach out to your mortgage company. Let them know that you filed a claim. Let them know that you're going to be receiving a check, and find out what their process is for handling that check. It's really important because every mortgage company is different. So your big Carrington mortgage servicer is going to handle it one way. Wells Fargo is going to handle it a different way. Your local bank's going to handle it a different way. So go ahead and reach out to your mortgage holder and find out what their process is for handling insurance claims checks. And they do, most of them all have a formal process for that in a way that they have to be submitted. Joey talked about this, document everything. So even if your adjuster's been out, he's taken really good photos, whatever. I can't tell you how many adjusters will show up to a loss, do everything that they're supposed to do or everything they're told to do, and then they disappear, okay? And they've already told you, yeah, throw all this away, do this, do that, and they fall off the map, right? These guys are contractors. They're independent. They get overwhelmed, and in my 16 years, I couldn't even tell you how many that's happened, and then we have to reassign another adjuster, and then they go out and start the process over, and then they're going to give you problems because you didn't document it. So you use your smartphone, use your iPad, whatever you've got, take photos, take videos. You can't have too much documentation. Contents. This is something that's come up a lot lately. So on contents, especially on flood, it's always actual cash value, so you can't get your depreciation back. But on contents, what you should put on your contents list is the price that you would pay today, including taxes and shipping and whatever it costs, right? Because that's the dollar amount that they're going to depreciate. If you put what you paid for it, things that you bought 10 years ago are not going to cost what they cost today, or even 2 years ago. They're not going to cost what you paid today. So make sure that you put, I know it's a lot of research, including tax, shipping, whatever it's going to cost to get it to your door. I know they don't. That's why I'm telling you today. Make sure that you use the price that has all that included, okay? That's a big number because they're going to take and depreciate from whatever number you put on that page. So you need to put the price that it actually costs to replace it today. Depreciation. So we get asked every day about depreciation. I could line up 10 adjusters shoulder to shoulder and say, depreciate this chair. They're all going to come up with a different number, right? It's a total crapshoot. There's certainly guides for that, but no one really uses them, and it's just kind of out of the air. I mean, we have claims every day that a roof is 2 or 3 years old, and they have 50% depreciation on it, right? There's no rhyme or reason. It's just all over the board. We talked about IA's experience multiple times, but hey, look, these guys, even if you get someone who's the most experienced adjuster out there, right? A guy that's been doing this for 20 years, he knows what to do, he knows what to look for. He comes out and he tells you, just like Joey was talking about, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. He writes it all up, and there's an adjuster in the room today that we were just talking about this before it started, but he writes everything up the right way, sends it in, and it goes through multiple layers, right? So that guy works for an independent adjusting firm. So he has a file reviewer at that independent adjusting firm who looks at that file and can take things out and make changes. And then they may have a manager at the IA firm that can also do those things. And then above that, you may have a third-party administrator between the IA firm and the insurance carrier who may have 2 or 3 people that can make changes to your claim. All these people have not been to your house. They don't know your damage. They're making changes to the loss, and then it could go to the carrier who may have 2 or 3 people that have control over your loss, right? All of those people, in most cases, don't have any experience either, and they haven't been out to the loss because they have to hire temporary help across the board in all those positions, right? Because they're all of a sudden maybe they have 5,000 employees when there's no storm, and then 24 hours later, they have 25,000 employees, right? These are big carriers. So all of these people have control of your claim, and they have control of the checkbook. And so I got a call. We get them all the time, but I got a call a couple weeks ago. This was a pretty egregious one. And it was an adjuster. He said, hey, I'm going to send you guys someone to help. I said, what's going on? And he said, well, you can't tell them it came from me. I said, of course not. We won't say anything. He said, listen, I wrote up a $140,000 estimate, sent it in. He said, I got a call, this morning from this insured. He said, I discussed what I was going to include in my estimate with them. And he said, I got a call from the insured, and she's very upset. She's cursing at me, saying, you're a liar, you're all this stuff. And he goes, whoa, what's going on? And he said, well, you told me you were going to do all these things, and I just got my estimate in the mail or via email, and she said, the estimate's $2,300. It's under my deductible, right? And so what happened was he did the right thing. He submitted his estimate. It went all the way up to the desk adjuster. At some point, through all those people, it got stripped down to under deductible, right? They left his name on it. He's a licensed adjuster, right? They left this happens every day. This is not a one-off situation. He's a licensed adjuster. They left his name on it, sent it to the insured, and here we are today, right? It happens every day. They're going to get stripped. They're going to get all these things get taken. So even if you luck out and get a really good adjuster, that doesn't mean that things are going to go well, okay? You need help. So I wanted to talk about that. So I have to keep my little checklist here so I can run through it. But engineers, we talked about that. Galen's a lot nicer about carriers and engineers and preferred vendors than I am. I've been on that side, so I know how they operate. If they tell you that they're sending an engineer to your house, it's the kiss of death of the claim, right? They're going to deny the claim. That's the whole point in them sending out an engineer. It's not to give you a thorough review of your claim, which is what they'll tell you. It's not. They're going to deny your claim. If they call and tell you there's an engineer coming, preferred vendors. The other issue with preferred vendors, and Galen touched on this, carriers do have those internal, what we call them at the carrier that I've worked for, state and storm issues. But they're internal policies and procedures on how they're going to pay for a loss, right? How they're not going to give you a full roof replacement. They're going to give you 97 shingles, or they're going to give you this or give you that, right? Those are internal policies and procedures. Those don't matter. When you hire someone to help you, all we care about is what your policy says. not what the carrier's internal policies and procedures say. Those don't apply. Windows is another big thing that we deal with every day. Look, everyone, I can almost guarantee you, everyone who is affected by Ida in this area, your windows have failed. Whether they have physical damage or not, if they are a gas-filled window, those seals have failed. So you need someone to help examine those windows that knows what they're doing. The adjusters are not going to do it. They're not going to send out a fenestration expert. They're just not going to do it. So you need to get someone to help with that. The issue with that is they're going to start fogging if they haven't already, right? They may not have been fogging before the storm, but now they are. The power's back on, the AC's on. You can't see out your window in the morning, right, because of the temperature difference. And the last thing that I'll talk about is choosing the right attorney. So I make this analogy multiple times a day. You would not go to a dentist for a heart problem. Same thing applies to an attorney. You want to make sure that you hire the right representation, and it needs to be someone who actually works these losses. There's every attorney on the block right now is saying, hey, we handle storm losses. Come see me. Last week they were chasing ambulances, but this week they're a storm attorney, right? So just make sure that you choose an attorney who actually handles first-party property losses. It's very important because I can't tell you how many calls we get at ATA because, look, attorneys are our clients. We work for 43 or 47 now, or maybe it's over 50 different law firms across the country, and probably 80% of those don't really know what they're doing. We're there to help them to know what to do, but we were on a call just yesterday with a firm, and they said, hey, we don't normally do this. We were told that you're the firm to call if we don't know what we're doing, and you can help us. And I said, we can absolutely help you because, hey, look, I want to help those people because if not, they're going to hire that attorney, and God knows what's going to happen, right? So just make sure that you select a law firm that works these losses and knows what they're doing. It's very important. We're going to be here after to answer some questions. I'm going to give out our 800 number. If you have any questions, you can call in. It's 800-935-9270. I'll give out my cell phone number. I regretted this last time. I'll do it again. It's 251-490-0269. If you have any questions, look, whether you hire us or hire someone else, I'm not here soliciting. We want to provide value to you and help you. And if I can help you and review something for you and do it for free, we're going to do that. We do it every day. So we just want to help you through this process. So, yeah, so my cell's 800-935-9270. And I think we're going to open it up to questions, right, Joey?
Yeah, at this point, we're here for another hour or till the LDI comes. We're going to answer anything y'all need us to about your situations. You can meet with us separately. Obviously, we can give you some free advice, but if you have some open floor questions, we're here. Yes, ma'am.
A couple, but I'll do one at a time with other people. When you said they have, as in insurance company, has 30 days, okay, are we talking calendar days or business days?
Calendar.
Yeah, let me correct that real quick.
Okay.
So, yeah, let me correct that for you real fast. So the normal rule in Louisiana is that they have 14 days, but that's the normal rule. Don't write it down. If you had a fire and you called your carrier and said, hey, I had a fire, they would need to really send someone out or what we call initiate loss adjustment within 14 days normally. That's not the rule when there's a catastrophic loss. It can be actually extended up to 60 days, and they have done that in this case. And I'll say this as a quick thought because I meant to say this earlier. I think the commissioner's doing a good job. I think the LDI is really trying to help. I do want to make a couple of things clear because I know they're talking later today. They don't have the power to change the law, and they don't have the power to change policies that already exist, like insurance policies, okay? And the reason I bring that up is they can say whatever they want, but they gave them the 60 days, so they got the 60 days. ALE is the same thing. Like, if you're having that problem with State Farm, that's really cool that Commissioner Donnellan ordered everyone to pay ALE, but it doesn't change what the policy is or what the rule is, right? So that's part of the problem y'all are having. But it's really 60 days here. It's 30 days. Now, where the 30 days comes in is if you submit an estimate, like a contractor estimate, a public adjuster estimate, an attorney submits something for you, they got 30 days to pay it. That's where the 30 days, and I think, yeah.
If they know they owe you something and they say they're going to obviously they're going to pay you $8,000. You obviously dispute that, but they don't pay you that check within 30 days. That's bad faith under the 1973 statute. That's what that means.
But 60 days to show up. 60 days to show up.
Yeah.
The most famous word I'm hearing continually is supplemental estimate, supplement. I mean, they won't send another adjuster out, just supplements and supplements. Yes, that's all I keep hearing.
Yeah, so yeah, the IA world lives on supplements or additional payments, right? So they're putting that burden off on you, right? They should come out. They should, and I didn't touch on this a minute ago, but Galen touched on it. They should send out someone to do a full damage assessment, right? That's what we do. We're going to come in, roof to foundation, do a full damage assessment. We're going to find all of the damage, right? Your adjuster probably came out, spent 15, 30 minutes maybe, and was like, okay, I see a little bit here and there. Thank you, have a good day. If you need anything else, we can supplement it later, right? They didn't do what they were supposed to do on your behalf, so they're putting that burden off on you. The problem is you're not a contractor. They probably came to your door and said, do you have any damage inside? And you said, well, I don't know. Well, if you find anything, let us know, right? So they're putting the burden off on you. The problem is getting a contractor to come out. The first thing the contractor's probably going to do is say, hey, let me see your estimate. He's going to say, oh, they gave you $3,000, I can't help you, right? So they're putting that burden off on you. Contractors are not going to go through and find that damage because they don't want to fight with the insurance company, right? So you need someone who can do what the insurance company should have done and to do a full damage assessment of your property, to find everything, to write it up properly. I didn't talk about this either. We use the same software they do, guys. The same exact software. We just use it properly. So I'll give you an example. They want to make things look like they've done the right thing, so that you may see a remove and replace asphalt shingles, remove and replace drywall, right? It's 2 line items. So you're like, well, they paid for my roof, they paid for my drywall damage, but there's actually like 17 line items that should have been included for that to happen, right? So they're just leaving all this money off the table in addition to not even finding the damage. So,
And I'll say this real quick about supplements as well. Yeah, supplements is going to be the common word for like the next 2 years, by the way. In fact, they're doing this to people from Hurricane Laura now, is they're like filing suit a year later because they haven't been paid. And the carriers are saying, we're still actively adjusting this claim. You hadn't sent someone out in a year. How are you actively adjusting the claim? But supplements, that's the answer, right? So he explained what that is, but let me tell you, I love when I'm the most reasonable person in the room. There's fair supplements and there's unfair supplements. A fair supplement is we go to remove the roof and we didn't realize there were 3 layers below it of shingles or roofing materials, so we need to supplement to say, hey, when the contractor was doing this, it suddenly was a massive pain in the rear end that we did not anticipate because we didn't know. That's a fair supplement. Or we opened up a wall that everyone thought was dry that had been tested and there was mold everywhere, so we need to remediate that before we go further. Those are fair supplements. That's something that even if the carrier had done their job, and even if you had, even if you were just about psychic, you couldn't have known, okay? Those are fair supplements. That's going to happen. Not a lot. Shouldn't happen a ton, but it does. And I will tell you, I don't know what it is about this region of Louisiana, but at some point, and it was right after Katrina, some roofers came in and instead of taking off the existing roof, they put a new roof on top of it. So it makes it harder for the contractors to do more work. They're getting paid to remove one roof, but now they have to remove 2 or 3, right? So those are fair things. But when they're saying supplement, what they're meaning is we gave you $8,000 when it's not enough after you've incurred the cost and after you have the liability and after you either have cut corners to fix your house, and that's the biggest problem, after you've cut corners to fix your house or after you're in debt to a contractor, now come back to us and tell us if you want more money and we'll decide what we're going to do. They want you to cut the corners because then they don't have to pay you. And if you're in a bad position with your contractor, now we can settle. So you owe your contractor, ma'am, $30,000. Let me make you a deal. I'll pay you nothing or I'll pay you $25,000. Which one do you want? Yeah. Right? You don't want your contractor suing you, so maybe you're going to take a $5,000 hit. And that's the point, I guess, is the supplement system is designed, and it's always existed, but I saw it really come into play about a year ago. It's what we call a cost incurred model. The way insurance works is you're entitled to payment up front for the fair, and I'm generalizing because some policies are different, but you're entitled to payment up front for the fair value to fix your damage, less your deductible and less depreciation, right? But they're not doing that. They're just giving you a little bit of money and saying, you go figure it all out, fix everything yourself, and then we'll consider whether we agreed to that or not. With no commitments up front at all.
The LDI is coming here in a little while to do their own presentation. A couple of weeks ago, Jim Donald on the radio actually told people in Louisiana, southern Louisiana, it's a good idea to get your own estimate done by somebody else. First time I've ever heard that. First time I've ever heard the LDI say, get somebody else besides your insurance company person that shows up to do a comparable estimate of your residence. So going back to what Galen said, I think Jim Donald is trying. The problem is they're not listening to him. So it is a good job, as Austin says, and Galen said that too, is to get, a second set of eyes on your house.
Jim Donald's a great guy. He got a great insurance commissioner. I mean, he's one of the best in the country.
Are you guys doing any of the commercial stuff, like for businesses and things like that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a business here in the mall. I have State Farm, and they're telling me that it's the mall's fault. And I didn't get any damage, but I'm not able to open my business.
Sure.
So they're telling me I'm more or less SOL.
So it's a policy-specific answer, so we would need to look at your policy to determine whether that's true or not.
a lot more
Yeah.
specific, factually specific than
Yeah, your loss of use.
Yeah, I've had several
Business interruption.
insurance quote-unquote adjusters and all kinds of stuff.
Your lease impacts that too, like what you're responsible for in your
Yeah.
storefront versus the mall.
Yeah.
There's a possibility they're correct. A possibility. But it's just a possibility. So.
Yeah, I mean, my.
We can do a free policy review for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
My space is totally fine. In fact, we got AC in there yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can't operate.
If you want to connect
Yeah.
us with the owner of the mall, we'll take care of the whole thing, so.
Yeah,
just let us
good
know.
luck with that one.
I don't think he's paying taxes. I'm not sure he's paying insurance.
Yeah, no, but I mean,
But to answer
Yeah,
your
I know.
question, we do everything from single family up to large multi-$100 million municipality losses and everything in between. Business interruption, we did $2.3 billion in BP oil spill claims. So we have forensic accountants. Whatever is needed on a claim, we can
well,
assist.
they're stating that I don't get business interruption because of the mall.
Right. Yeah, and
You
I'm
know.
saying that's policy
Yeah.
specific,
Well,
so
I tried
maybe
to
that's
explain to
true.
them that I'm the one paying the insurance, not the mall, but that doesn't seem to be.
You have business income loss coverage?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're telling me that because of the wind and the rain, that it's the mall's fault that I can't operate.
Yeah,
So regardless, as that I'm paying State Farm,
right.
and so, and I'm.
It depends
perfectly
on what
okay.
causes the business interruption, right?
Okay.
So what they're saying, and I'm not saying this is what your policy says, but what they're telling you is that, hey, because of something that's not related to inside of your envelope, if you will, it's something outside of that causing your business interruption, you're not covered. That's what they're telling you.
Right.
So I would say, let us look at your policy. They may be wrong,
Yeah.
right? They may be interpreting it wrong.
what a novel
So,
idea.
yeah, but send your if you want to send your lease and your policy over to any of us, we'll be
Well,
more
I
than
don't
happy
have
to
a
look at it
lease,
for you.
but I do have
Okay.
a policy.
Yeah, that's fine.
Card by chance? Do you have a card? I have a checklist. Okay, all right. Great. Yeah. Okay, yeah, all right, thanks.
What's the policy for replacing roofs? They don't want to do anything but patch my roof. And I've had 6 leaks in 6 different rooms.
Yeah, she's asking so every carrier is different, but her question is, what is the policy for replacing a roof, the internal policy for the insurance company, because all they want to do is repair her roof. So this is what I was talking about earlier. Every insurance carrier has a different internal policy. One of the big insurance companies, one of the big 6 we like to say, has issued internal guidelines this year that says we don't replace roofs, right, unless it's gone, basically. So we're going to repair it no matter what. Every roof is repairable. So we completely disagree with that, and I don't want to get into talking about case law, but maybe Galen can talk about some of that.
Yeah, so a few things. So, yeah, it was really interesting. In our field, we don't get together and play nice a lot. We should. Like even, we all get along, but we don't have conferences or anything. So one of the handful of conferences that a lot of our folks go to, we're all sitting, and it was in New Orleans this year, just so happened to be. So people from all over the country that help policyholders are getting together talking about what's going on, having dinner, hanging out. You know, it's been a rough year for everyone. And we get back to our offices and we find out that while we're in New Orleans, one of the biggest carriers has hired a consultant and had an all-hands-on-deck meeting and decided they're not going to replace roofs anymore. It was fantastic timing. It was so, you know, so poetic, right? Every roof is fixable. No roof needs to be replaced unless it's missing. We don't care whether your roof looks the same. That's not our problem. Roofs are patchy anyway because the sun sometimes fades shingles faster than others. So it doesn't need to look uniform. And even if you got a big hole in the center of that roof, we can lay stuff over the middle of it. It's not a problem. And they did these, by the way, nothing in writing, just so we're clear. They had all these all-hands, so it also was like a game of telephone. So like I think it actually started kind of like, we're going to tighten it up a little bit, and by the time it got down to the bottom, it was like, we never pay for roofs. You know, and like all of these adjusters were like, oh, this helped me so much, because now I understand that I don't have to replace these people's roofs. It was wild. However, welcome to Louisiana, because you don't get to play by your rules, you have to play by our rules. And in Louisiana, we're a matching state. Good luck matching your roof. You have multiple problems with that, okay? You have discontinued roofs, some of you, because these manufacturers are slick and they don't make the same color and size and shape shingle forever. Yeah, I mean, they got to make their money, right? So but that's not your fault. That's the manufacturer's fault. And then also, by the way, like massive amounts of wind, let's just get that out there. It's not easy to patch a roof because really what we need to do is pull all that off and probably replace all of that decking. Any y'all in construction? No? No one? Someone pointed to the back. Okay. So there's a contractor hiding. There you go. So you know, decking is, for those of you that don't know, decking is essentially, the easiest way to explain it is it's the plywood that sits over the joists and everything, and it's what you actually nail everything into, okay? So your decking, even if it's good decking, has a ton of holes in it from your existing roof. So now if we're gonna start pulling stuff off and putting new stuff back on, we do have decking, even if it's not rotted, even if it's solid, even if it's in really good shape, it's got a bunch of holes, okay? Small holes, but holes. And now we gotta put a bunch more holes in it. So, you know, the right way to fix this roof is to redeck it, put on new shingles, you know, and there's other things in between the shingles and the decking, which makes it that much harder. So we're not playing this patching game. I guess that's my position, is we don't play this patch game. It's very, very difficult to patch a roof unless it's a very new roof and you can find that exact shingle and you can be very confident that that roof structural integrity was not compromised by the massive winds that all of you had. I think you might be able to patch a couple of brand new roofs in the Bywater, okay? I don't think you're patching roofs, even if they're brand new, in Kenner. You're definitely not patching brand new roofs in Houma because they're gone, all right? So it's frustrating, but like my advice would be stand your ground, because we do have laws that protect you. And at the end of the day, your policy governs, not the internal rules they made. Yeah, yeah, let's get to his question next. Let me just address that. She said they made us take the tarp off and it leaked again. And you know, yeah, you got a duty to mitigate, right? So you put tarps on. You put holes in your roof when you did that. And that's my favorite, is like, it's ridiculous. Then some of these adjusters get really angry, like in the second round. It's not the first round. But the higher up adjusters come back like a few months later to kind of deal with the difficult people. And they go, oh, those holes, your house is leaking? That's your fault. You did a bad job putting the tarp on. Again, stand your ground. You had a duty to put the tarp on. You probably didn't mess up putting the tarp on. You probably didn't mess up, okay?
Joe, thanks for coming out today. As you know, I'm a commercial real estate broker, and I have a lot of clients that have the issues with the debate between them and their landlords. Air conditioning blows off the roof, and the interior is damaged. So what is the obligation of a landlord's insurance company for damage inside the property?
A lot of that said is lease specific, is the terms of how the store owner, very rarely does the interior of a store like if they're a tenant, extend to the outside of the envelope. I've seen lease agreements where the landlord's only responsible for the roof. So in a situation like this, the landlord absolutely has an obligation to fix it, and that would be through his insurance carrier. Now, the water that gets inside of the tenant space, that's a whole nother ballgame, depending on how the lease is written, because they can try to nullify some, responsibility of damages for the water inside the tenant space versus on top of the roof, or how the water came in, or what happened. Did the roof fail? Did it come in through the front door? All that kind of goes into the lease. But typically, in a catastrophe event like this, the landlord owns the building. Landlord's responsibility is what I usually see.
I'll tell you this too. What if it's a triple net lease, right?
That's what I was gonna say.
And in that case, the tenant is paying for the insurance that the owner has, right? So the owner's insurance, this happens all the time, and this is why you got to watch these people and not let them get slick, okay? The owner's insurance company says, we want to see the lease and see who's responsible for what. And then it says the tenant's responsible. So the owner's insurance says, we're not paying. Says the tenant's responsible. Tenant has like very basic insurance to just cover their stuff, so their insurance says, well, you're not covered. So both insurance companies throw up their hands and say, have fun fixing your building. But it was a triple net lease. The tenant actually was paying for the landlord's insurance. So honestly though, whether they are or not, even if the tenant, it says the tenant's responsible in the lease, the tenant was paying for the owner's insurance that covered the property. So like, and when the carriers explain it to you the way that I gave you at the beginning, it makes sense. And you're like, oh yeah, we're really screwed. But then you go back and think about it and you're like, no, the tenant was paying for the insurance the whole time. They just weren't the named insured. So that's kind of the way around it.
Okay, I got a couple of questions. I'm back here. Woo. Okay. Number one, you mentioned about the roof. I'm not from Kenner. I live in St. Charles Parish, Destrehan, so there's like destruction everywhere. It's horrible. I was blessed. My home, didn't have much damage, but the outside looks like a bomb hit it. But anyway, I have my daughters live in St. Charles Parish as well. Both of them had roof damage. You said stand your ground on the roof. They don't want to pay them anything. And I'm talking they had like leaks and the roof looks like someone like peeled up. It's obvious that it's really, really, really badly damaged. So what is the next step for them when the insurance company says, I'm sorry, this is what you get, tough, poop, you're screwed basically?
I mean, I think all three of us say the same thing. I'm not going to tell you who to call or who to hire or what to do, but they're at the point where it's time to have that discussion. I believe you because so my assistant lives in St. Charles Parish. I was in St. Charles Parish 24 hours after the hurricane to check on her house because she was in Birmingham because I had to get all my staff out because this is all we do.
We weren't there either.
So this is all we do, so I couldn't have my people in New Orleans or Metairie with no power and no internet.
No water, no sewage, no nothing.
And all our clients are scared, right? And so I had everyone gone. So she's terrified. First house. She's 24 years old. Just bought her first house.
Right. Like my daughter.
And then this happens, right? So I went and checked on the house myself, and I probably spent longer than I should have because they didn't really want anyone in St. Charles Parish looking around, and the devastation was massive. Same thing. Her house doesn't look that bad, but it's got the roof is obviously damaged. Right. We're going to get her paid. I'm not worried about that because she works for a pretty great place to be if you have an insurance claim. But if you're at that point, like I said, stand your ground. Some of you are of the mind or of the skill set to handle this yourself. I don't think most people are of the skill set to handle it themselves, but at least they think they are, and that's fine. That's not my place. But if you're at a place where you have been firm with them, you have been clear with them, you have done everything you can think of to convince them to pay,
Right.
and they are continuing to refuse to do so, not based on the language in the insurance policy, but instead based on some guideline you did not agree to or something made up altogether, then you need to consider hiring a professional to take it to that next step. And the only example I can give is like you cut your toe doing something, and you treat it yourself because it's basic first aid. As soon as it starts looking green and infected, it's time to go see someone.
Right.
Right?
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's what I told them. I actually did tell them they need to see, call someone. And In fact, I told my old insurance company that I was going to get a lawyer if they wouldn't, work with me. My adjuster came out and adjusted, like you said, was awesome, said he was going to get me all this stuff, it's going to be great and wonderful and sparkly, and he was there on the 10th. I called my insurance company on the 1st of October. They said, oh, we haven't received anything. So someone in the insurance company was, I don't know if she was smart enough or stupid enough, but she gave me the number to the people who hired the field adjuster. So I called the field adjuster people.
Are you
And
emailing too?
I needed to do that. See, that's one thing I
You
didn't
need to
do.
put it in
was
writing,
email.
because all these calls you're making, I promise you
Well,
they're not
I will
logging them.
email from now on.
They're gonna
I
say
will
6
email.
months from now, oh, we talked to you
No,
once.
Yeah, so she says, oh, well, we sent them the report on the 21st. And this is the 1st of October. And so the insurance company says, I get back on the phone with the insurance company. Oh, well, we haven't received it yet. It's somewhere, it's in your file somewhere. We don't have enough people. At this point, I'm like, I don't care. I could give a crap less. How many people you have, I had damage. I've got to replace all my. Yes, exactly.
Hey, and if you're gonna call, right? If you just don't like to email or whatever.
No, I'll email. from now on.
Louisiana's a single party consent state, so record the conversation. So get an iPad, get someone else's iPhone, voice recording app, or voice memo app, or if you have an Android,
good
I'm sure there's
idea.
another app you can download. Record the call. You can absolutely do that without telling them that you're doing it in
Well,
Louisiana.
the crazy part about it was like 2 days later, all of a sudden my thing it showed up, and now I have a desk adjuster. It's like, wow, I don't know how that happened so quickly.
You had a desk adjuster, all right. You just didn't know about him.
Yeah, I don't know
You had him
any-
already, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know anything about him. I haven't heard from him. I haven't heard anything, so I'm still waiting.
And look, they are overwhelmed, okay? Like,
Yes. Oh, I
I get
understand
it. Like,
that.
there's no way that they could ever staff to handle
Oh,
a
no,
major
there's no way.
catastrophe. So they have to do things the way they do it. It's never going to change. But that doesn't mean that you should be penalized for it.
I mean, they could.
Well, I tell them,
So,
we're not short-handed when you had enough people to deposit my check.
so that's the thing. I'll say, like, you got to be patient with the humans that you're dealing with because they're overwhelmed, okay? You have to understand the humans you're dealing with are very overwhelmed. Yeah, they can't staff up fast enough. Now, there's an alternative. It's not politically popular, but they could hire enough people to handle a disaster and run the risk of those people not being massively productive year-round. Like, it's an option. They made $5.5 billion last year, so they might have enough money to pay those people. But, look, it's not popular. It's fine. And they're not going to do it because they need to make that profit, right? So that's the problem. So be gentle with the humans, but you don't have to be gentle with the company, if that makes sense.
I have two questions. My first question was the initial adjuster report. I walked with our adjuster through the house on his heel. I even watched when he went on my roof. So I know what he put in. I would like to get that report.
Is that my mom back there? What's that?
I don't know.
It's exactly what I told my mom to say.
I would like to get that report, since that was the first report.
Sure.
And,
They don't want to give it to you.
huh?
They don't want to give it to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can get it through y'all. All right,
We can
so my second question would be, is to make a threat that I'm gonna go to a attorney if, when they tell me what I'm gonna get, if it's not satisfactory. Is it okay to threaten?
You're within
Go
your
to an
legal
attorney?
right. In Louisiana, the line is very, very simple, and the line is criminal, not civil, right? Do not extort anyone. Do not blackmail anyone, which you're not going to do because you don't have any bad information on these people. Do not threaten to harm them. It's tempting, but don't threaten to harm them, okay? But you can put in writing. There's nothing wrong with putting in writing, if I don't get this resolved soon or I don't hear from you or whatever, I'm going to have to hire an attorney. Is it going to hurt their feelings? I don't know, but it's not wrong. And you're within your rights to do it. Now, you may be unfortunately surprised that they don't care. In fact, in some ways, it's really good for them because that same human you're dealing with that's really overwhelmed, they lose your claim. You know why? Because so many of these people are so inexperienced that when representation shows up on a claim, they lose it and it goes to someone more experienced. So some of them are like, yeah, hire an attorney. Don't threaten me with less work, you know? Like that's kind of the process. And we've got a great example. There's a restaurant in Kenner. I won't tell you who they are because I don't know if they're popular or not. But Austin and I are helping them with the claim. So we knew their adjuster was showing up. We sent off a letter of rep. It probably was working its way through, you know, the internal system. And one of Austin's guys shows up to the inspection. Hey, my name's so-and-so, and I'm here with ATA. And the adjuster was like, bye, and turned around and left and didn't do the inspection. And, you know, they're like, hold on, let's get this done. Our client's waiting. And they're like, oh, I'm not allowed to work on files that have representation. The field adjuster. The field adjuster was like, I'm not allowed to inspect a property if there is someone watching to see how well I'm doing. That is crazy, right? So, you know, I guess the overarching point is you can make any threat you want as long as you don't violate a law, and you're not going to as long as you're, you know, treat people the way you'd like to be treated. Yeah. Some of y'all will do that. You'll start stalking your adjusters on Facebook. Like, nothing good comes from that. It's not illegal. But nothing good comes from it. You're just going to get mad.
Hi. I have actually 3 separate questions, 3 different topics. So number one, I wanted to ask, when you said about replacing the decking because of all the holes in it from when they took off the previous roof, that's something new to me that I want to look into, because my limited understanding is that the waterproof structure of the roof is basically the underlayment and the shingles. And so how would you make the argument, you know, that these holes in the decking, that all of the decking needs to be replaced because it has the holes from the old shingles, when the decking I don't think is supposed to be waterproof to begin with. So I'm interested because I'd like to know if I can make this claim, but I'd like to know the basis of it.
Austin and I are about to get real nerdy with you, so we'll try to keep it quick, okay?
Okay.
You want to do it first?
I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Go for it.
Okay. Well, so your policy owes to indemnify you, right? To restore you to pre-loss condition. So Galen was talking about all the holes that's in your decking already. And so when they're putting all these additional holes in your decking's not what it was in pre-loss condition. So we can make that argument. That's one. But the other argument is we've actually had engineers, I'm not an engineer, but we've had engineers go out and we do what they call nail pull strength test, right? So when shingles are installed, they're installed in a certain way where the nail holes are pretty, and this, he's not a contractor, we said he was, he's a commercial real estate broker, but the contractors can tell you this, the nail holes are going to be pretty much in the same area each time because they install the shingles in the same manner each time, right? So that means that you 100% are going to have new nails going in old nail holes, right? And when that happens, when that nail goes into a fresh board, it has a really strong nail pull, right? Like it can take a lot more pressure than if it's a new hole or a new nail going into an old hole. That's not going to hold as much, right? So when you have storms back to back, like we do, we all live on the Gulf Coast. So if you get a re-roof on old decking, that shingle, the new shingle is going to blow off much more easily in the next storm than it would have in the previous storm. Does that make sense? So they're not restoring you to pre-loss condition. So that's the argument, the nail holes and the fact that they can't restore you to pre-loss condition going back with the same decking. So that's the argument we use all the time and win a lot of times.
And then the pop nails. So,
Oh yeah, and then pop.
Yeah. So the final piece of that is the pop nails, which is you're basically blind when you're nailing this stuff in because you got maybe some felt, maybe some ice and water shield, and then your shingles. As I said, I'm getting nerdy, I'm sorry. And you're re-nailing into this existing decking, which means there's a chance, because you can't see where the previously existing holes were because they're covered up, there's a chance you're going to nail back into the same hole. That means that nail's going to pop out. And then, by the way, when you have a subsequent claim, mark my words, An engineer will come out and say, oh, I found nail pops. Therefore, it was a bad installation. So this is the homeowner's fault that their roof is leaking, not the carrier's.
So I guess by that logic, basically everybody whose insurance company has agreed to replace their roof, all of us should insist on new decking. I mean, if that's, the case, I mean, everybody should be getting completely new decking for their roofs.
When contractors or homeowners ask me how I feel about decking, I say that I don't think it makes sense to replace a roof without also replacing the decking.
Yeah, based on what you said, that definitely makes sense. Thank you. So my second question is, I've already had an adjuster out. So if I have any issues and I want to hire somebody like y'all, are you paid on the difference from what they've already agreed to pay? Or is it a percentage? Is it a flat fee? Is it an hourly fee?
Yeah, so watch that really carefully. And I'll give you a longer answer, but the short answer is watch that really carefully. Because different people bill different ways. And make sure you have it in writing how they're going to charge you. Because I'm not just talking for us now, I'm talking for everyone, right? So, for instance, I mentioned, and you may not have been quite in here at that time, but I talked about the public adjusters.
I'm sorry, I came in very,
That's
very
fine.
late.
No worries. So one of the things I mentioned is some public they're not supposed to charge a percentage in Louisiana, but some of them do. And then they tell me things like, oh, I charge on RCV. Let me translate what that means for you. The public adjusters that tell you they charge a percentage of RCV, let's use 10 because it's easy, they're looking at that first number on the estimate, not the number you're getting, not the new money you're getting. They're looking at the biggest number on your estimate, the RCV. So it says 100,000 on there. You already got paid 50, and half of the new money is depreciation, so you got a check for 25,000, and that public adjuster wants $10,000 from you, right? So don't enter into an illegal contract anyway for a percentage. That's like number one. But number two, how are they billing me? Lawyers. Everyone knows lawyers want too much money, right? Lawyers charge a percentage. Most lawyers do. Some lawyers might have some alternative fees. I know my law firm, we charge a percentage. But we charge a percentage of money we recover for you, dollars, not what it says on an estimate, not invisible money, actual money. If you get a check for $100 and we're charging you 10%, we charge you $10. If it said 100,000 on the estimate, but you only got a check for 25,000, we would charge you $2,500, right? So I guess what I'm saying is everyone charges different. A lot of public adjusters charge hourly because they have to by law, but that makes you uncomfortable because how do I know how many hours he's spending, right? So you have to have these conversations that are uncomfortable and difficult, and you shouldn't be scared to have them. These are reasonable questions to have, and I think it's one of the, and I'm going to give it to Joey, but Joey mentioned like find local people, find people that locals trust. Like I'll tell you that's where that comes in my mind is, I saw a big out of state, and look, Austin's from Alabama, okay? So I'm not bad-mouthing all people from out of state, but I saw a big out of state company come in from Texas. They claimed to be really big. They were here. They rode out the storm here. They were public adjusters. And they hit the ground running, okay? They're from Texas. They're charging 10% of RCV. They're actually really slick because they hooked up with another law firm. And they're getting like part of the, I don't know how it's sketchy. But you know what? They're telling these people also, I'm hearing from people that have hired them, different stories about how the fee is because they're telling people whatever they want to hear. My problem with that is this. They're from out of state and they're not even connected with anyone in state. So later, when you're having your fee problem with them in 6 months, a year, they're going to be gone. So there's going to be no one. Like, Joey is really honest and really fair. And if he violates his agreement with you, you're going to tell people here, and someone's going to go over and be like, Joey, you knucklehead, why are you doing this, right? Same thing. I've had people show up in my office, right? So just make sure it's someone that you're really comfortable with. And, I'll let Joey finish up, but...
I'll say we are based in Alabama. We're nationwide. We have an office here, and we live and work here. I've worked in Louisiana for the 16 years I've been in business, but I wanted to make that comment. We work together every day. He's like bashing me today, so yeah.
It's Stacy, right? I think I've met you before. I can't remember where, though.
I was at that council meeting. I think that's probably.
Yeah, I was probably there watching.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming. If you hire someone to help you, you should only be paying for any more money they get for you. So if you've gotten a check, let's say, if State Farm gave you $10,000 and you know that's nowhere near enough, all that money is yours. So if I was in the claim, none of that money is mine. I'm not touching that. I'm going after the additional money that we would obtain for you to get your house fixed. And then we would only charge any type of, fee on the amount that actually comes in the door. So this whole RCV stuff, it's based on what actually comes in for your pocket, if that answers your question.
A little bit, I'm sorry, I just need a little more clarification. So, and it's probably my fault for coming in late. You may have already said a lot of this, but, so if the insurance adjuster, if they come back and they tell, because I don't know what my number is going to be. Let's say they come back and they say they're going to give me $20,000. That's their estimate, and I'm not satisfied, and I hire you guys, and in the end, the check is actually $40,000. Am I paying you a percentage of the whole $40,000, even though I didn't receive that first $20,000 yet?
Only the additional funds. So whatever the first amount is, you're not paying anything on that. It's only what these guys we're able to get you over and above that amount.
Okay.
Now, if we're involved in the very beginning of the claim, that's a different answer, right? But we're all kind of past that now. Because there's a lot of people that called us day one. It's like, hey, we want you to handle it, because they already know that the insurance companies are not going to do the right thing. And in that case, yes, we collect a fee on everything, right? But most people have already had an adjuster out. They've already got their first estimate. So, no, we wouldn't get anything from that amount. It's only from the additional funds.
So, and you said that some people work on commission, and some people work on an hourly rate. Some people can charge commission, some can't. So am I understanding, like, some of you guys are attorneys and some of you guys are adjusters, and it depends on which we hire, or are we getting both when we hire one of y'all, or are we getting just that one person?
Yeah, those are all fair questions. So let me break it up, because it's a couple of things. So attorneys are largely going to charge a percentage. Most attorneys, okay? Joey and I are no exception to that. Adjusters in Louisiana, public adjusters, those are the people by license that can help you. The other type of adjuster is not supposed to help you. They're supposed to help the insurance company. The public adjusters in every state other than Louisiana, just about, they charge percentages. Louisiana, they're not allowed to.
Okay.
So they charge you hourly. And then what I had talked about kind of before you came in, so because of that, because these public adjusters, a lot of them are used to being able to charge a percentage, Louisiana is an uncomfortable state for them as well, and for you, because you don't want to be on the hook hourly, and they don't want to have to charge hourly. Some of them, Austin can charge hourly, like he can keep his time. Some of them aren't even set up to do it. They don't have the necessary computer stuff, the software to keep their time. So they kind of do it like, it's hourly, but wink, wink. My hours are going to happen to come out to about 10% of your claim. Doing business on a wink-wink is like always a hard thing, right? If you hire a law firm like Joey or I can only speak to Joey and I and maybe two other firms in Louisiana, because we were kind of the ones that were doing this before the storm. I don't know what these other firms are doing, but our first step is going to be to call someone like Austin. In this case, for Hurricane Ida, we're calling Austin. And I'm going to get his team to come out at my cost. I'm gonna front those expenses. I'm gonna work with Austin to make sure the expenses are fair and reasonable, and that's never been a problem with Austin before. And he's gonna send people out. He's gonna document it. He's gonna tell me how much you're entitled to, and then I'm gonna take over. And again, I'm not just talking for me. I can think of 3 other law firms where this is true. I'm gonna then take over the negotiations and kind of interface with the insurance company myself. So kind of you've lost all responsibility for the claim. Obviously, you can be as involved as you want, but Austin's going to kind of take the how much side of the claim, and I'm going to take the pay me side of the claim. And between how much and pay me, we should hopefully get you to where you need to be.
So is Austin getting paid by me directly, or is it just kind of rolled into your percentage?
Yeah, in that case, with most law firms, if you hire the law firm's going to pay Austin.
Okay, thank you so much. And then my last question, so I'm getting various answers from this question from multiple people, and some people who are extremely smart. I'm still getting different answers. I'm hoping you guys can maybe give me a definitive answer. When you get a claim, let's say everybody agrees you have $20,000 of damage. Your deductible is $5,000, so that leaves $15,000. Roughly half of the people I talk to say, okay, you can take that $15,000 and you just have to fix all your damage. If you want to do some of it yourself to help eat away, you know, at the deductible or whatever, as long as you fix everything for that $15,000, you are good. Other people are saying, no, you literally have to, if they give you $15,000 for the roof, you have to come back with a receipt showing you paid $15,000. So can you please, once and for all, tell me?
Yeah, so you asked one question that actually is like 5 separate things. So we're going to split them up and we're going to cover them all, okay? And that's why you're getting different answers, is because there's lots of different pieces that go into this. So you're not getting bad advice, you're getting people thinking about different things when they're giving you their answer. So first, I'm going to talk about what you can and can't do with the money and what you do or do not have to spend. Austin's going to talk about recoverable depreciation, and then Joey will clean up everything we messed up, okay? So what you can and cannot do with the money. It's insurance money. You do not have to use it to repair your property. I will make the unpopular statement, okay? That would be silly, because if you don't repair that damaged stuff, you better be sure that most carriers are not going to pay for it later when you have something else happen, okay? But from a legal standpoint, if you are the homeowner, the property owner, and you take that money, go to Tahiti, I was thinking Vegas, but whatever, go to Tahiti and come back and do or do not fix your property, that is on you, okay? That's your choice. Now, your mortgage company might have a bone to pick with you, so you got to deal with them because you have a separate agreement with them. But legally, your money, you can, you know, it's my money and I want it now, right? So you can do that. As far as whether you have to fix or not, again, you don't have to fix the damage. But that's going to affect your relationship with your insurance company and any future insurance company. If you don't fix the damage your current insurer paid you for, they are not going to be happy when you have a subsequent claim and they get on that roof and find out it was never replaced. Sometimes there's a legitimate answer for that. You didn't pay me enough to fix the roof the first time, guys, right? But nevertheless, it's going to affect your relationship. You switch insurance companies. They might send someone out and do an inspection, or even after a loss, they'll pull your claims history. All these insurance companies talk, by the way. So they can find out you had a roof claim from Ida. You didn't fix that stuff, it's going to be an issue. So legally not required to fix it, but there are ramifications, there are consequences. However, there's another issue, which is depreciation, and that really affects how much you spent.
Yeah, so recoverable depreciation, so they're holding back, let's just say you say your damage is worth $20,000, $5,000 deductible, so there's $15,000 left that could potentially come to you, but they keep an additional $5,000 in depreciation, so they give you a check for $10,000, right? I'm probably way off because it'd probably give you a check for $3,000, but anyway, we'll use that to do simple math. In order to get that other $5,000, you've got to show you spent $20,000, right? Or they're not going to give it to you. Or you've got to show that they're not going to give you all the $5,000, right? Maybe you spent $18,000, so they'll give you that additional $3,000 or whatever it may be, right? So that's where the confusion's probably coming in. In order to recover that depreciation, you've got to have a receipt that shows you spent the money, because they're not going to give you more money, even though you repaired the damage maybe, they're not going to give you the entire amount. They're only going to give you what you actually spent and can show proof that you spent as far as depreciation goes. Does that make sense? So it does.
Only on recoverable depreciation.
Only on recoverable depreciation. So
What if you have an actual cash value, replacement cost policy where there is no
that's what I'm talking about.
depreciation?
Yeah, there is. So on your estimate from your adjuster, it's going to say RCV amount of $20,000, right? And then the next line down is going to say depreciation, recoverable depreciation of $5,000. That's the example I'm making, right? And then your deductible is $5,000. So now that brings it down to $10,000. So the $10,000 is what they're saying is actual cash value. That's the check they're going to give you up front, the actual cash value check. They're going to hold the recoverable depreciation of $5,000 until you can prove that you've done all the work. Once you've proven that you've done all the work and spent over the 10,000 or over the 15,000, the deductible and the ACV amount, once you've spent over that amount and you can prove it, they'll issue the depreciation in whatever that amount is, up to the 5,000 for the 20,000 total. Does that make sense?
It's starting to.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We could show you on a piece of
Yeah, I could
paper.
write it down and show it to you.
What determines the amount of the depreciation?
That's what I was going to end with.
talking about. Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
You looked at my note.
I was doing this. I've successfully gotten cases settled when I've told the carriers, you have completely over depreciated my client's roof or contents claim. There's no way this roof is 70% depreciated. It's only 8 years old. And it also depends on the type of roof you have. Like I've had clients who've had asbestos type roofs that you can't really put on anymore. Back in the day, asbestos roofs were considered 100-year products. So if an asbestos roof gets blown off, you should get a 100-year, roof, in my opinion. So that's a copper shingle, which is really, really expensive. And none of the carriers want to pay for that. So Galen and I actually won a bad faith case against Allstate last year in Shreveport with an elderly man whose asbestos roof got destroyed. And the judge agreed with us that he was owed a much higher value type roof. Now, we didn't get the copper. We got a 50-year roof, so I think the roof was actually 50 years old. But in terms of depreciation, you can't just allow the carrier to assign some random depreciation threshold. If it's really, really high, always dispute that. Put that in writing. There's no way this depreciation is this much. You need to reevaluate this. And that's another component to the answer. So
Not a set percent.
There's not.
depends on who shows up.
It's a crapshoot. It is.
Made up.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy because I see that in my clients' claims.
Yeah, I made that example earlier talking about the chair. So you could line 10 adjusters shoulder to shoulder and say depreciate this chair, right? They would all come up with a different number.
So there's not a standard percentage.
So it should be, right? The math is pretty simple. If it's a 100-year roof and the roof is 3 years old, it should be 3% depreciation, right? But there's different factors to it. So it's age, condition, climate, all these different things should go into that. But who's going to come up with that number? You're talking about these guys that literally can fog a mirror that they sent out, right? That was the qualification for hiring them. You're expecting them to do complex math. It's not going to happen. So, yeah, it's completely made up 99.9% of the time. That was straight from the RDB.
I have a wind-driven rain issue. We had water come in through one of the windows, not a broken window, but a closed window. And the person on the phone before the adjuster came out and also the adjuster said the same thing, that if there is not an open gaping hole in the house or a broken window, that the wood floor that got warped in our living room, the water came in through an upstairs bedroom window. So it came through the ceiling, warped the wood floor, and they're saying that's probably a manufacturer's defect or it's a caulking issue, and it's not going to be covered. Is that true?
So, no. Okay, so that water came in, so the storm created an opening for that water to come in. We can help you all day long with that. That's their normal song. Look, insurance carriers delay, deny, defend, right? Do everything they can to keep from paying you. The wind-driven rain exclusion, the no storm created opening exclusion, all that stuff. We can help you with that. That water got in through an opening, right? You may not see it, but it got in through an opening, and it was a storm created opening. So.
I had 3 bad faith cases against Louisiana citizens after Isaac. I won all 3 of them on that. They were using the exclusion. The juries, none of them bought it. All of them hated it because that window was not leaking before that storm hit. So the storm, Ida, obviously created an opening in your window. Now they're trying to blame defects, and they're saying there's no opening. So they're just trying to deny you. That's all they're trying to do. So you need to fight them and just be the squeaky wheel. Send them emails, demands, and go after them. That's all you can at this point.
I said it earlier about windows, though. I promise you all of your windows are damaged. Whether you see it right now or not, those windows are damaged, and they owe you for it.
Yeah, damaged and broken are different.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the point, is I don't want you guys, when you're talking to your adjusters on your own, to get caught up with the terminology they're using, okay? The terminology that's important is damage. They like to shy away from that word. They like to use other words that sound like damage, but that's not the standard in the policy, okay? The wind that hit your window, sir, was enough probably to break that seal, all right? They're correct that they don't owe for manufacturer defect, but it's a little curious to me that the first time that manufacturer defect appeared was when we had the worst hurricane in 150 years with the highest wind speeds to ever hit your home, right? Doesn't sound like it was a defect to me. It sounds like the seal got broken. How many of you right now, even that didn't get water in your houses, are having trouble opening and closing your doors? Something's going on. Your doors are not, okay, so all of you must have bought your doors at the exact same place and they're defective. So go to Home Depot right now and tell them they sold you bad doors 20 years ago. Something's going on.
And none of those windows and doors, none of the windows and doors on residential homes are rated to withstand, none of the windows and doors are rated to withstand on residential construction the wind load that happened during Ida. I'll give you a perfect example. I have a condo in Orange Beach, and we have commercial, quote-unquote, hurricane-proof. You know, the backside of condos is all glass, right? So the doors and windows are all, quote-unquote, hurricane-proof. We had a fenestration expert come out. They all failed, okay? Commercial-grade stuff. Sally was a lot less pressure and wind load than Ida. So every single residential property that we've touched in Mobile and Baldwin County, the Panhandle, Mississippi, from Sally's, Ada, whatever, all of those windows we've tested have all failed. I promise you, you're in a much worse position than we were on Sally last year.
I got a problem,
You're good. It's on. We can hear you.
I got a problem. I live in Golden Netta, and the windows and all don't leak that I saw, okay? But you guys said that there's a way that it can be tested so that we can go ahead and see if these windows would be paid by the insurance company. Is this correct?
Yes, sir. So there's multiple ways to test. They have water testing. They have freeze point testing. So like on a gas-filled window, right? The way that they test these a lot, we have them come in and they take this metal canister, right? They pack it full of dry ice. They have these suction cups that suck it to the window and it takes it down to -5 degrees, right? And then they pull it off and they wipe it. If it's fogged on the inside, the seal's broke, right? Because it's not supposed to do that. So yeah, just because your window, and look, we've got a condo association claim in Gulf Shores right now that we're working, and you pull in this complex and it looked perfect. Like everything looked perfect, right? The roofs had some missing shingles, whatever. But I was like, we need to have these windows tested because I know we had just done it on our condo at this other association, and those were even built more sturdy, right? So I said, let's bring somebody in, let's bring our expert in to test these windows. Well, they all failed, right? They look perfect. I mean, you couldn't even tell that this property, they kept this property pristine, right? There's 11 buildings, everything. They had full-time maintenance crew on staff all the time. Everything looked perfect, and every one of those windows failed. And this is new construction, so it's not like the buildings have been there for 30 years. They were built in the last 5 years. So I guarantee you, just because you don't see physical damage, even if you don't see fogging right away, 6 months from now, 8 months from now, you're going to start to see it.
Got another question. Your roof, like you said, the sheeting or the plywood, the shingles are put on. And I noticed this after the hurricane, I noticed a lot of holes coming through the plywood. Now, what is it? Is it a judgment call on your roofer to make the decision as far as the plywood is any good or not, or sheeting? How it works?
I don't think it should ever be really a judgment call for your roofer. I think if you have a roofer you really like and you really trust, you got to consider following your contractor's recommendations. But again, you just got to be careful and figure out kind of what the level of, there's two things. There's competency and care, right? There's lots of good contractors that can do a great job. They're competent. But then they got to care about, are they going to wait the right amount of time, or are they going to front the job, right? And that's a whole separate issue. You know, in my mind, the best contractor that I could have in the world would come in, restore my house to its same pre-loss condition, bear all that risk, front all that money, deal with that all themselves, And then I would, I'd hook them up with someone like Austin and get them paid, and hopefully they'd walk away and make a really good profit, right? That's expensive after a storm. And you can't find a lot of people to do that. So if your roofer says, oh, I don't need to replace the decking, I mean, it just depends on how much you trust your roofer. Just know that if you have problems down the road, because you have another like claim down the road and like there's popped nails and things like that, or they say, well, this decking was bad, my roofer said I didn't need to replace it isn't going to be a defense. The question is going to be, did the roofer document the condition of that decking adequately, and is that roofer going to show up in court in 6 years when I have another claim to testify that the decking looked good? And that's the problem. So look, we do a lot of like being like, don't trust people you can't trust, right? You got to trust people at some point, but just be aware that every time you trust someone or don't trust someone, there's repercussions to your actions, right? So if you like your roofer, you trust your roofer, you love your roofer, like great. You use them to fix your roof. Just know that if they don't replace the decking, you might have an issue.
Adjuster came and he didn't find hardly anything wrong with our house. So I demanded another adjuster to come, and he came with his manager. Am I entitled to that second adjustment report?
In theory, you should be entitled to everything in your claim file in terms of reports, things like that. The reality is, again, to decrease the amount of money they have to pay out and largely decrease the amount of like pain in the butt like claims they have. Sometimes they create these internal policies. Oh, we don't give that. Oh, we won't give that.
They'll just send you a check in the mail. I know that's-
You have an option. I think at that point, if they're not giving you that stuff, you should hire someone, okay? But you do have another option. Sometimes it's effective. Usually it's not, which is you can file a complaint against them, Louisiana Department of Insurance, okay? You'll start to hear that soon. In fact, if you stick around for their seminar, they're going to say, file complaints. The complaints always get resolved. It's not true. The complaints get resolved because they close the complaints once the carrier responds to them. Because the carriers are really, really good and, in fact, have a whole department designed to write these really beautiful letters explaining why they're perfect and why they've handled your claim to a T, and, it's not their fault they can't justify paying you, right? So that's how they are resolved, just so we're clear. You'll get like 2 or 3 people will post on Facebook, I filed an LDI complaint and then I got my policy limits 2 days later. That may be true, okay, it's possible, but it's those 2 or 3 people compared to like thousands of complaints. Oh, they don't want to talk to y'all because you got Joey? Well, the good news about that is Joey's going to get that report. It's going to happen. It may take a little bit of time. In fact, we may be helping Joey with the claim, okay? So I'll talk to you afterwards, okay? But, it takes a little, and typical lawyer talk, it takes a minute, okay? But let me explain to you what's going on. So you hire someone like Joey. He prepares a letter of rep. That's a letter saying, hey, they obviously got that, okay? But in that letter of rep, it says a few things. A lawyer that knows what they're doing, it does not say, the undersigned has been retained to represent Mr. Smith with his insurance claim. Please send me the check. That's what most letters of rep say. Joey's letter of rep, my letter of rep say things like, send us a copy of the whole claims file. Send us a certified policy. Update us on whether you're paying for our client's ALE. We hereby revoke all direct pay authorizations to any and all preferred vendors you have, right? We're trying to take this claim that might be internally a mess when we got it, but we don't even know because we can't see the documents, and kind of straighten it out at the same time as requesting stuff. Well, the carriers are going to take their sweet time sending me that stuff. So I might be a little blind on getting that second report for you yet, but I'm going to get it. Because if I don't get it, I'm going to have a talk with you about suing them and going after penalties and attorney fees. And I would like to point out, we did not talk about that today until it just came up. Lots of lawyers are going to be talking about penalties and attorney fees. They're out there. They exist. They're not a myth. Right now we're focused on your claim. That should be where the focus is. But I'll tell you, as a lawyer, if they came out and did a report in your house and I've requested it, I'm not going to be satisfied with not getting it. And I will make sure that anyone that can change that knows. And if I have to tell a jury that they refuse to give your report to you, I will. And what do you think a jury from this region that just went through a hurricane is going to think about that?
Yes.
Okay, I have, and I pay dearly for in premiums, a 1% hurricane deductible and a 2% wind and hail deductible. Take a wild guess as to which deductible they apply to what they paid. It's not a final settlement, haven't signed a thing. And even on their statement of explanation, which I had to demand because I recorded it, and put it in writing and copied their supervisor every time I wrote them. And I copied LDI every time I wrote them.
Yeah, you want to come to work?
I'm retired from that lady. I got to tell that lady I'm retired from Desterhan High School. But they put that on there yesterday as he finally answered the phone, okay, after leaving messages, text, and writing emails. Finally called me back and I said, are you looking on page 1, line number 3, okay, where you see it's 1%, okay, of the value of the house versus 2%. I said, why are you using the wind? And the hurricane deductible is listed, and you're using the higher wind deductible. He said, because the wind caused the damage. I said, but you are not a meteorologist, okay?
There's a better answer. Who's your carrier? Okay. Liberty sucks. Just gonna say it. I know we're on recording. They can sue me. Liberty Mutual sucks. Okay? So I said it. I'll say it 1,000,000 times. I'm literally
I've been with them 28 years.
at 5 p.m. I'm about to jump on the phone with a lawyer and tell that lawyer for Liberty Mutual why Liberty Mutual sucks. Okay? So I've said it a bunch. Let them sue me. It's a fixable issue. Her issue is very specific. Her issue is that she has a hurricane deductible that actually is lower than her wind and hail deductible. And that's not normal, so it's very unique to her. None of y'all probably have this. Yeah, you paid a lot of money for it. And they're applying the wind and hail deductible because in their cute mind, wind caused the damage. The rule in Louisiana, from a legal standpoint, is the more specific provision governs. Okay? If there's a provision of your policy that could apply to a bunch of things, but there's one specific provision of your policy that does definitely apply to your situation, that is likely going to be the one that governs. Also, I'll give you some more Louisiana law. If there's a reading of a provision that should or could be construed favorably to the policyholder, that is supposed to be the construction that governs. So without looking at her policy, there could be something in there I'm missing, okay? But I haven't heard of a lot of hurricanes that don't have wind. So I'm feeling pretty good as I sit here about my analysis without looking at the policy, which is if she has a more specific hurricane deductible, they are going to be forced to apply that more specific hurricane deductible instead of the higher wind and hail. Now, I'll tell you that would...
It's usually the other way around. It's usually the other way around. So usually you'll have a wind and hail as 1 and a hurricane as 2. Not the way you're saying. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So what you have is very What you
I'll
have
look
is
at it,
very
yeah.
different than what's
So in this case, we know a hurricane hit this area on this day. We also know that hurricane brought wind. It also brought water, and it threw debris around, and brought a bunch of really angry alligators, okay? But we know in this case that it was a hurricane, so the hurricane provision is more specific, if that makes sense. Wind is not really a specific thing. We could get a wind gust. Yeah, it should, based on what you've told me, I would be shocked if they dug into that position once.
I told him you printed it and then, but you deducted the 37, and he said, oh, I think it was a mistake that the lower deductible was even printed on that page. I said, well, guess who printed it?
I think it was a mistake too, because it's not normal, but.
Yeah, I mean, we don't think they meant to give you a lower deductible
Insurance
for a hurricane,
companies
but
never shock me anymore at some of the things they do. I'm just not shocked anymore.
Like I said, the hurricane was named, now it's even named if it's a tropical storm. So it was named before it became the wind that damaged my home.
There you go.
no, you're correct. Most hurricanes, in fact, and tropical storms get named before they hit the area.
Named or categorized according to their wind.
Right.
So the hurricane had to come first.
I mean, look, it's like if your house catches fire, being like, well, fire didn't burn down your house, heat did. You know, it's like, they're parsing words to try to save themselves 1%, and that's not fair.
And the depreciation, well, if your fence was from Katrina, it's 16 years ago, so we deducted 16 years worth of it, and that's why I was wondering how did they figure it a certain extent?
Well,
What year or
in
what?
our software,
And I
you can
said,
punch
"Sir,
in the age, but.
Slightly, it hit 16 years ago, the exact day that this hit. So I didn't rebuild my fence on the day that Katrina hit.
Right,
I did it like 2 or 3 years later.
right,
Yeah, and
yeah.
look, because of Katrina, we all have a really good barometer of like when certain things were replaced. There's post-Katrina homes and then there's newer homes, right? Like Katrina did so much damage that most of the building materials in the region are just post-Katrina. So we kind of know, and I don't want you to get too worried. Like, I don't know. I don't want you to get so caught up with the depreciation issue, because at the end of the day, if you do end up getting those repairs done and you have an RCV policy, you're going to get paid that money. Yeah. And if you don't, you have recourse. The depreciation's a hard one, and you can actually win arguments with them, and we do this all the time, where we're like, this depreciation is overblown. You know, lower this depreciation right now and kind of let's get this moving. And that does happen. But the depreciation, like, the reason we keep ignoring it and kind of brushing over it is because it's all voodoo math. And there's, yeah, and there's just kind of nothing we can do with the voodoo math.
Liberty Mutual can't say, if I bring them a letter from this conference or from LDI saying that it should be the hurricane deductible that's applied, then he'll change it. He can't say that.
Oh, he told you had to give him a letter?
Yeah.
I mean,
He told you that?
That's insane.
Wow.
I hate these people so much. I mean,
Just said they were good people, Galen.
well, as I said,
Be
look,
nice, he said.
be nice.
I didn't like that part of your speech.
No one does. Look, I read a lot of Anne Frank when I was a kid.
My
and-
view is they're billion-dollar corporations, and that you paying premiums every year.
They care about
Get them to
insurance.
fix your freaking house. I don't care. They have $1 billion to hire more people. Go after them. Be the squeaky wheel. You know, send them demands every day. Don't just call them. Email them, because you need to document it so it goes in the claim file. And we have a few more minutes left before the LDI comes in here. We have a little food left. Everybody wants to eat. Please go get the food right now before we shut it down. One more question over here. This pretty lady on the right. Red beans and jambalaya. Anybody wants any?
So if we want to recoup the depreciation, but we also do some of the work ourselves, do I invoice and give myself a receipt? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's a nightmare dealing with a carrier when you do the work yourself, trying to get depreciation back. They're going to want to pay you minimum wage. They're not going to want to pay you what a contractor would charge. So that's a really difficult thing. So they're basically going to, if you document what you're going to do, they're literally going to want to pay you minimum wage for your hours, right? And then whatever your material cost is. And then they're only going to give you the depreciation back in the amount you actually spent, if that makes sense.
Yes, ma'am. This was one meeting for insurance, and now there's about to be another. All insurance all the time.
I have a question. If you've already covered this, I had to leave for a while to meet an adjuster.
So you're ready to sign up right
apologize.
now then, I guess?
The question about actual cash value versus replacement cost coverage, and it's kind of a two-part question. One dealing with the residence itself, such as the roof, such as, for example, a 15-year-old roof, and then also dealing with contents, furniture. I know the difference between replacement cost and actual cash value and what the terms mean, but I have heard, number one, that an insurance company may not pay you the full cost of replacing your roof initially. They will give you a depreciated value, which is the actual cash value. Then once you have it replaced, they'll pay you the difference. And I've heard they will do the same thing, this is part two, when it comes to personal property. That if your sofa, television, whatever is damaged, they don't have to pay you the replacement cost unless and until you actually replace it. How does that really work?
That's both correct, right? So in almost every case, the only caveat to that is if you have an actual cash value policy. so you wouldn't recover that depreciation. And the other caveat is flood. So if you have a national flood insurance program policy, contents are always actual cash value. So you're never going to get that depreciation back on contents. The whole policy is ACV, but you can do things to qualify on flood to get replacement cost value. And I can tell you about those things later. But on contents, I made this statement earlier. It's very important that when you make your contents list, the price that you put should be the price that it costs to replace that item today, including taxes and shipping and anything else it takes to get that product in your hand, not what you paid for it last year or 10 years ago or whenever you bought it, right? So
What if they are making you use their form that they sent you that says on there, column 2, original cost?
Okay, couple of quick things. We didn't talk about this. You are not required to use their forms. I want you all to remember this. If you remember nothing else from this, besides I think all people are good, is I do not want you to feel like you were required to use their forms. You do have obligations under your policy. You need to fairly apprise them of the value of things. On contents, they're going to need to know some things like the brand, right? I mean, don't tell them I had a 65-inch TV. Tell them I had a 65-inch LG, you know, whatever it is, the type of TV. If you can come up with the model number, those are important. If you have receipts, great. Not everyone has receipts. That's normal. And, you know, so you have to do things, but don't feel pigeonholed into their form. I've had people say that. I can't put the shipping and how much it'll cost me to go get that because it's not on their form. Great, make your own. That's what we do. I mean, you want to know the rocket science behind everything we do? We send people that know what they're doing to value the damage to property, and then we make our own forms and argue with insurance companies knowing what Louisiana law is and making sure we don't get pigeonholed into their practice. Like, that's the entire rocket science to, like, sorry, Austin, but that's his whole practice is just using common sense combined with experience and knowledge of value, and us just using common sense combined with a little bit of legal knowledge. That's it. Like, that's 100% of what we do. So don't get pigeonholed into their form. Again, we're talking about internal guidelines, right? Their form was designed in a way, and maybe this isn't true for every carrier, but for some of them, I guarantee you it's true. They designed that form, and someone said, we will save on average $3.7 million by using this form instead of that form. That's why the form doesn't have shipping costs. That's why the form doesn't have acquisition costs. We've had clients before that had to go out of state to get things when they bought it. So that sounds ridiculous, but they got it out of state. What's the cost of going out of state to get that? Maybe you can mail order it, maybe you can't. It just depends on what it is. We had a client with a bunch of artwork, you know. We have a terrible one that's still ongoing where like a pipe burst destroyed all her stuff. She had stuff from all over the world. It's not just the cost of the thing. It's going and getting it. Like, hate to say it that way, but I don't know what the value of that thing from that like little village in Africa that she got was. It might not be that high, but going and replacing it is going to be very expensive. And does it feel unfair? Does the adjuster feel taken advantage of that that $25 knickknack is down there as a $4,000 expense? Yeah, definitely they feel taken advantage of. But that's why you have the coverage, is so you can put yourself back. And on an RCV, it's replacement cost. So it's actually the cost to replace the item. And to replace the item is not just the value of the item, it is the cost to go get it. Hey guys, so thank you so much for coming out. We'll let Joey close out. He's gone, I guess, but I did want to say real quick, the mayor has been fantastic. You know, he made this place available for us, and Joey and I were actually, you were like giving away stuff and doing giveaways like nonstop, trying to keep neighbors going, ice, pizza, like Joey did all that. It was amazing.
You got the pizza? I brought 150 pizzas of driftwood, and people loved it because people were hungry. You couldn't, nothing was open. The grocery stores closed at 3 if you didn't have anything to eat, and then people came and got those pizzas. And we were glad to do it. The DPCA has been very good. Matt Davis and Cindy Catalanata, all of them have been great. So we're trying to help Kenner. We just are right now. So thank you all for coming. I hope it helped. We'll be around if you want more questions answered. You know, of course, you can contact us. It's a general information seminar for you. We're just trying to help the people right now. So, Barry, I'll talk to you after, of course. Any more questions, let us know after. The Louisiana Department of Insurance is coming here in a minute to do their own thing, so we're going to get our stuff and leave. Thank you all so much.